Chapter 845. All the alien candidates' expressions changed entirely. They were filled with shock and disbelief. Is it that great Chen Empire? Yes. There's only one great Chen Empire in the vast universe. The figure smiled gently when he saw everyone's expression. How is that possible? A baron from the great Chen Empire enjoys a noble and high status. Why will you come to this remote and underdeveloped planet? Argus took a deep breath and asked. He still couldn't believe it. It's not impossible. 1,000,000 years ago, I was ordered to chase an escaped convict. I pursued him through multiple galaxies for 300 years and finally killed him on this planet. However, I suffered heavy injuries and couldn't leave. In the end, I died here. The figure spoke slowly. There was no emotion in his voice, as if he wasn't talking about his death. Chased him through multiple galaxies. Everyone was dumbstruck at the figure's words. They could imagine how terrifying and intense this multi-galaxy battle was. All the talents were mind-blown. They couldn't find their voices for a long time. The Devil Lords exchanged glances with one another at the side. They couldn't hide the bewilderment on their faces. Even the powerful Devil Lords felt jittery in front of this indomitable presence. They felt a tinge of fear creeping up their hearts. This figure was a formidable human martial warrior. Would he kill them when he saw them? He might be just a floating soul in the air, but they didn't know if he possessed any incredible skills or methods. Excuse me. While everyone was lost in awe, a voice broke their chain of thoughts. Everyone, including the figure, turned to look in the direction of the voice. Wang Teng was raising his hand like a primary school student wanting to make a statement. His eyes were filled with the innocent desire for more knowledge. I'm sorry. I want to ask what the Great Chen Empire is. You all seem really astounded, Wang Teng asked cautiously. An unnoticeable hint of frustration flashed past the figure's face. So who did he put on a show for just now? Fortunately, the others knew how powerful the Great Chen Empire was. If they didn't, he would have felt awkward. Loggins frowned and said with contempt, an Earthling is indeed an Earthling. The Great Chen Empire is a dominant presence in the universe. How can you not know about it? Wang Teng glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. Are you asking for a beating? What? Loggins glared at him. Argus opened his mouth and interrupted them, explaining calmly, the Great Chen Empire is one of the few oldest high-tier civilizations in the universe. Do you understand what a high-tier civilization means? It rules countless galaxies, including 1,000 middle-tier civilizations in the universe. A middle-tier civilization rules a few thousand galaxies and a few hundred low-tier civilizations. The Olent Federation is just a low-tier civilization. Yet, it controls the 9 main galaxies. Every single galaxy has hundreds of thousands of life planets with different cultures and living beings on them. The Milky Way your planet is in is one of the 9 main galaxies controlled by the Olent Federation. Earth is just one of the most inconspicuous planets among the few hundred thousands of life planets in the Milky Way. Now, do you know what the Great Chen Empire is? Earth is worse than a speck of dust when compared to it. Argus' voice was calm, but the disdain and contempt in it were apparent. Everyone's gaze gathered on Wang Teng's face. They were looking at him with ridicule and waiting for a good show. Wang Teng's question showed how stupid and ignorant he was. This guy from an underdeveloped planet was an idiot. Biluo glanced at Wang Teng worriedly. This piece of news might be a huge blow to a normal person. Their perspective of the world might shatter, and it could leave an indelible mark on his heart. After all, his birth planet was insignificant in front of the Great Chen Empire. Not talking about a normal person, even the alien candidates couldn't accept it calmly. They were fortunate to be born in the Olent Federation, so they had heard of this concept before. If they had received this piece of information suddenly, they might not be able to accept it either. Visit Riadel. Me for extra chapters. Argus' intention wasn't pure. He was using this opportunity to cast a shadow on Wang Teng's mind and create an obstacle on his martial arts path. Maintaining a fearless attitude was essential for a martial warrior, especially one who was striving to reach a higher level. If they suffered psychological trauma, even if it was just a small one, It would be amplified in the future when they progressed further and become their Achilles' heel. Argus was attacking his mind. However, after a moment of astonishment, Biluo saw Wang Ting giving a small smile. The expression on his face reverted to normal. It was a composed expression. At this moment, composure meant confidence. This fellow is able to regain his composure so quickly. He didn't seem affected at all. It looks like I underestimated him. Biluo wondered to herself in surprise. The other people noticed Wang Ting's expression too. They were shocked and found it a pity. Many alien candidates were fearful of Wang Ting's talent. They were happy to use this chance to stimulate him. Unfortunately, he didn't fulfill their wish. Wow, this great Qian Empire is such a powerful presence. Wang Ting suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Everyone was speechless. They found his performance a little exaggerated. Did he think that they were all stupid? Who would believe such a fake performance? Wang Ting disregarded everyone's gaze and looked at the figure excitedly. Senior, do you need a sidekick? What does that mean? The figure asked in confusion. Take me under your wings. Wang Ting rubbed his hands and sniggered. Everyone was shocked by Wang Ting's shamelessness. How could there be someone as shameless as him? The figure glanced at Wang Ting helplessly. He had never seen someone with such thick skin. Coughing awkwardly, he replied, I'm dead. I can't keep you under my wings. You're dead. Wang Ting appeared astounded. But you're still here. This is just an image I left behind. I left a legacy in hopes that my successor will appear one day, the figure explained. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 846. Everyone was stunned when they heard the figure's words. Then, their gazes burned with excitement. The successor of a baron from the great Qian Empire, they didn't need to think to know the implications. Although the baron was just the lowest title of nobility, the great Qian Empire was a high-tier civilization. The baron of a high-tier civilization must at least be a cosmos stage martial warrior. The alien candidates knew what the cosmos stage meant. Planetary stage, celestial stage, cosmos stage. There was only one cosmos stage martial warrior in one galaxy. They could rule over an entire galaxy. For instance, there were 9 galaxies in the Olent Federation, so there were 9 cosmos stage martial warriors. Each of them guarded their galaxy and acted as a governor. The figure in front of them was a baron from a high-tier civilization. His position was even higher than a cosmos stage martial warrior from a low-tier civilization. Hence, his legacy must be incredible. Wang Ting's eyes shimmered. Honestly, he didn't understand the stages of the martial warriors in the universe, but from the expressions on the alien candidates' faces, he could guess how much weight this successor position held. Also, based on their description of the high-tier civilization, it wasn't hard to imagine how high a baron's status was. In summary, the bait given by this figure was extremely tempting. At this moment, Biluo spoke to Wang Ting using voice transmission. She seemed afraid that he didn't understand what this baron position meant. Aren't you afraid that I'm a strong contender? Wang Ting asked in surprise. He will choose between us. We will fight fairly, Biluo replied calmly. Arrogant lady. Wang Ting smiled in his heart. Who are you calling arrogant? Biluo snorted. Are you choosing your successor among us? Argus controlled his excitement and asked carefully. Yes. I've waited for a long time before I finally met talented youngsters like you. If I miss this chance, I don't know when I will be given another one. The figure nodded. I scattered some constellation elixirs outside to attract martial warriors over. Did you all get it? Everyone turned to look at Wang Ting. Why are you guys looking at me? It's just a few constellation elixirs. You come from the universe. Why are you fighting with an earthling over them? Wang Ting raised his eyebrows and said with disdain. Everyone glared at Wang Ting. Just a few constellation elixirs? You make it sound so simple. Why don't you take them out and share them with everyone? They might have wealthy backgrounds, but they hadn't reached the stage where they would look down on such a treasure. Heh! You got all the constellation elixirs? The figure asked in astonishment. No, how is that possible? I left a few for them. Wang Ting shook his head hurriedly. Yes, it was just a few, Kathu said bitterly. I see. So you did snatch all of them. The figure was even more surprised. He sized up Wang Ting and asked, You said that you're an earthling, right? Yes. Do you need a sidekick? My potential is not bad. Wang Ting nodded. He was too lazy to complain, so he changed the topic quickly. It looks like the Earth gave birth to a rare talent. In the past 1,000,000 years, a few people managed to get into this room, but they weren't talents. Hence, they couldn't inherit my legacy. This planet is too underdeveloped. There are no gifted martial warriors here. The figure sighed. He seemed to be releasing his emotions after wasting 1,000,000 years of his life. The others looked at Wang Ting. Look, even the big boss says that your planet is underdeveloped. Wang Ting's expression didn't change. He remained composed. What do other people have to do with me? I, Wang Ting, am a rare talent. I don't have much time. Let's go straight to the point. I have one question for you. Are you willing to accept my legacy test? The figure turned serious and asked. The alien candidates got excited. The gazes of the 5 great stars burned with enthusiasm as they nodded fervently. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. He shouted along with them, Boss, I'm willing to. Please bestow me the legacy. The formation was broken at once. His voice stood out among all the others. Everyone glared at him furiously. This fellow loved to be in the limelight. Could he have some shame? The figure nodded in satisfaction. He turned to the Devil Lords and said with a cold gaze, My legacy is not for dark apparitions. Please leave. Mph, you're just a dead person. You don't have the right to decide if we can earn your legacy. Phantasma Devil Lord scoffed with a sharp gaze. The other Devil Lords stood behind him vigilantly. They sounded fearless, but they weren't sure if this dead formidable warrior had any powerful attacks hiding up his sleeve. Visit Riadel. Me for extra chapters. Haha, even a Devil Lord dares to look down on me. I've been dead for too long. The figure mocked himself. Everyone felt the sorrow of his helplessness. This was a Cosmos stage formidable warrior, yet he was getting trampled upon after his death. Just when everyone thought that he couldn't do anything to the Devil Lords, the single eye on the corpse behind the figure released a glaring beam of golden light. The Devil Lords' expressions changed. Before they could react, they were enveloped by the golden brilliance. They felt their minds trembling violently. The spiritual power in their consciousness had no way of resisting the invasion. They collapsed instantly and fainted. The Devil Lords fell one by one. None of them escaped. Oh my God! Everyone was terrified. They stared at the scene in disbelief. I might be dead, but I can still deal with you Devil Lords. What a waste of my remaining spirit, the figure shook his head. Senior, you're amazing. Long live Senior. Wang Ting shouted. They didn't know how to express their speechlessness as they stared at the weirdo. Senior, are they dead? Argus hesitated and asked. No, they're just unconscious. However, they won't be able to wake up for half a month, the figure replied. What are we waiting for? Let's kill them quickly. We mustn't miss such a good chance. Wang Ting was about to make his move. Don't waste time. I wasted a bit of my sealed spiritual power, so I can't last for long. Accept my legacy test first. The figure seemed a little urgent. Wang Ting stopped and turned to look at the figure. No one knew what he was thinking. He smiled and said, In that case, why don't we take the test first? How is this test going to proceed? Kathu asked carefully. No one dared to underestimate the figure anymore. The attack he used to knock the Devil Lords unconscious was enough to prove that they wouldn't be able to resist him even though he was just left with a fragment of his soul. It's simple. I'll bring out the spiritual maze I created before I die. You just need to release your spirit and find the maze's exit. If you find it, you will pass the test, the figure said. Release our spirit. Argus and the others hesitated. Don't worry. If I want to do anything to you, do I have to beat around the bush? The figure smiled. He knew what they were thinking. Everyone was enlightened. Any more questions? The figure asked. If not, cross your legs and sit down. Release your spirit. The martial warriors stopped hesitating and sat cross-legged on the ground. The figure nodded in satisfaction. A golden glow shot out from the single eye on the corpse. It was many times thicker than before, covering the martial warriors completely. In the next instant, everyone closed their eyes and sank into their consciousness. Suddenly, they appeared in a huge, magical maze. At this moment, the figure gave a sinister smile and disappeared into the air. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 847. After a moment of weightlessness, Wang Ting realized that his feet were on the ground, and he was surrounded by stone walls that were over 5 meters tall. The stone walls were covered with unknown vines and blooming gorgeous flowers. It looked like a magnificent garden entrance. However, Wang Ting knew that this was the labyrinth that the figure spoke of. A labyrinth constructed by the spirit. Is this a cosmos stage technique? Wang Ting was a little surprised. There was a glint in his eyes. He yearned for such power. He looked around and saw no signs of Biluo, Argus, and the others. It was clear that they were all separated. It was within his expectations. There was no need to panic. Wang Ting thought for a moment and flew up into the sky. He was planning to see if he could just fly to his final destination. When he neared the top of the stone walls, he couldn't ascend anymore. That was also within his estimations. However, Wang Ting was still disappointed. It seemed that there was no shortcut available. He landed on the ground and walked towards the entrance of the labyrinth. A fork in the road then appeared in front of him. Which one is better? Wang Ting muttered. A coin suddenly appeared in his hand. In the spiritual world, he could do simple materialization. It was an ordinary spiritual power technique. Heads means right, tails means left. If it lands upright, it will be the middle. Alright, let's do it this way. Wang Ting muttered to himself and tossed the coin into the air. The coin landed on his hand. It was standing right on the edge. It couldn't be more stable. Very well, since you are as steady as I am, let's walk in the middle. Wang Ting nodded solemnly and slapped his right hand. The coin vanished, and he headed for the path in the middle. The individual monitoring the entire labyrinth was dismayed. Was he seriously so hasty? Simultaneously, the other alien candidates were also entering the labyrinth from the other entrances. This was a great opportunity for them, so they would try their best to pass this assessment. At a certain entrance, Argus rushed towards the labyrinth at an extreme speed, leaving behind after images of himself. When he encountered the fork, he didn't hesitate and picked a path immediately without caring about whether it was right or wrong. Without a doubt, he chose to clear the labyrinth with speed. As long as he was fast enough, no matter how complicated the labyrinth was, he would be able to find the correct path among the countless wrong ones. Cathus' method was simple as well. When he encountered the fork, he didn't hesitate either. All he did was bombard the stone wall in front of him with his fists as he tried to create a shortcut by destroying his obstacles. However, things weren't as simple as he thought. Normal attacks could not break through the stone walls that were constructed by spiritual power. No matter how hard he hit them, the stone walls wouldn't budge. Cathus' face was grim. He could only choose a path and find a way out. Biluo was standing at another entrance. There was a thoughtful look in her eyes as she looked at the fork. The labyrinth would have its clues or maybe some kind of law. As long as she knew what they were, it wouldn't be difficult to reach the end. While thinking, she entered the labyrinth and tried to find a way forward. Every alien candidate had their own method of clearing the labyrinth and moving towards the end. Once sealed for many years, the labyrinth now welcomed its guests, like a sleeping behemoth that was slowly awakening. After half an hour of walking around in the labyrinth, Wang Ting had to stop. A stone wall blocked his path, and there was no road ahead for him. Wang Ting frowned and pondered. He didn't plan to take a detour again. He condensed his spiritual power into several thorns, which floated in front of him. Wang Ting had a clear idea. Since this was a spiritual labyrinth, the most effective method would be using spiritual attacks. Fortunately, Wang Ting had one up his sleeves. Go. In the next moment, Wang Teng's eyes flashed as he added some sound effects. The thorns turned into cold lights and shot out. Along with an explosion, a hole was blasted in the stone wall. A path appeared for Wang Ting. Visit Ria Del. Me for extra chapters. I'm so smart. I actually thought of a perfect solution. Wang Ting smiled and gave himself a pat on the back. Just as he was about to pass through the big hole and head deeper into the labyrinth, several attribute bubbles caught his attention. There are attribute bubbles. Wang Ting was surprised and overjoyed. This was not what he had expected. Planetary Realm Spirit *120 Planetary Realm Spirit *100 Spiritual Labyrinth Fragments *10 As the 3 attribute bubbles entered his body, Wang Teng's eye flashed with joy. 220 points of spirit attribute. And these were Planetary Realm Spirit attributes. As expected of a spiritual labyrinth constructed by a Cosmos Stage warrior, there were Planetary Realm Spirit attributes. Wang Teng didn't expect to have such a harvest. Of course, the last attribute bubble was the one that made him the happiest. Spiritual Labyrinth Fragments. When the attribute bubble merged into his mind, Wang Teng understood how to construct the spiritual labyrinth a little. This was an extremely rare spirit technique. Feeling the enlightenment in his mind, Wang Teng took a deep breath and looked around him. There was a flame in his eyes. This labyrinth must be destroyed. If it was not destroyed, there wouldn't be any attribute bubbles. Wang Teng was eager to try, but his face suddenly darkened, and he sighed. He thought of something. It was impossible to destroy it completely. That figure wouldn't allow him to do so. Based on his calculations, the entire labyrinth was probably under his control. If he went too far, the figure would definitely get him. After pondering for a moment, Wang Ting smiled again. He didn't tarry any longer and continued walking in front. Several spikes appeared in front of him again. This time, he didn't wait for a dead end to appear. He aimed directly at the center of the maze and drilled in that direction. Planetary Realm Spirit *80 Spiritual Labyrinth Fragments *10 A big hole appeared, and Wang Teng walked toward the heart of the labyrinth while picking up the attribute bubbles. At the same time, a figure was sitting leisurely on a reclining chair at the heart of the labyrinth and watching the progress of the alien candidates. When he saw what was happening over at Wang Teng's side, he jumped out of his chair, and his eyes almost popped out of his sockets. Damn, this kid can actually destroy the spiritual labyrinth. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 848 The Baron from the Great Qian Empire felt unhappy, very unhappy. The spiritual labyrinth was his way of testing this bunch of talents and weakening their spiritual power. Anyone who wanted to reach the end of the labyrinth would have to exhaust a large amount of their spiritual power. This was his real aim. Yet, Wang Ting destroyed the labyrinth and took the shortcut. However, he also realized that Wang Ting best matched his requirements. His spiritual power was powerful enough, and he hadn't reached his 20th birthday. He was still very young. He seemed to be the perfect candidate sent from heaven. Squinting slightly, he muttered to himself, I mustn't let him reach here easily. Let's give him more trouble. The labyrinth started changing silently. The stone walls on the original dead ends moved. They turned into opened paths while the opened paths became dead ends. Some unconnected roads got linked up. Based on the figure's arrangement, Argus, Kathu, Loggins, and many other people's path overlapped with the paths Wang Teng had to pass. That meant that they would definitely meet. Wang Teng didn't know what was happening. He was still immersed in his attributes picking work. He destroyed the labyrinth wherever he went and turned everything into ruins. This labyrinth wasn't soundproof. When he destroyed the stone walls, the noise echoed in the air and landed in the ears of the people who were getting closer to him. Who's bombing the labyrinth? Idiot, this labyrinth can't be destroyed using brute force. Everyone was appalled. They turned in the direction of the sound as they guessed which idiot was smashing the labyrinth. After pausing for a second, they continued dashing towards the center of the labyrinth. The voice sounded close. This meant that the other martial warrior was just nearby. They didn't dare to waste any time in case someone beat them to the draw. Only one person didn't move. This person felt that the explosion was extremely close. It was just a wall away. He stopped in his tracks and turned around, staring intently at the stone wall behind him. The next instant, the loud bang was heard again. It couldn't be any nearer. The stone wall collapsed violently, and a figure strolled out amid the dust. "Hey, it seems like I can't avoid my enemy." A cynical voice rang in the air. "Wang Ting." Loggins squinted. He said each word with great emphasis. He recognized the voice. At the same time, he was astounded that this fellow was able to destroy the walls of this labyrinth. He couldn't maintain his composure. "Don't be nervous. I'm not going to eat you." The dust dispersed, and Wang Ting's figure appeared before him. There was a faint smile on his face. "Don't put on an act. Since we met, we should have a duel," Loggins said with a cold expression. "You're straightforward." Wang Ting nodded. He hooked his fingers and continued, "Come, I have an advantage in this place, so you can make 3 moves first." "You're tempting fate." Loggins felt humiliated. Anger burned in his heart as he stomped his feet on the ground. He dashed towards Wang Ting, leaving a trail of shadows behind. There were no weapons here, so they could only attack in the most basic manner. He released his fist ferociously and hurled it at Wang Ting's head. Wang Ting seemed relaxed. Tilting his head, he evaded the attack and counted calmly, 1. Loggins was fuming. He turned his body and swept his leg at Wang Ting's head. No one could use their force attacks in this spiritual labyrinth, but they knew the basic fighting skills. As a talented martial warrior, Loggins was skilled in this area too. His attack was violent and fast. Unfortunately, his opponent was Wang Ting, whose basic combat skills were all at the peak level. He could evade Loggins' attack without any effort. 2. Wang Ting counted again. "Bastard." Loggins' face turned as black as an ink bottle. He wanted to catch Wang Ting off guard, so he flung his head towards Wang Ting's head when he attacked. Wang Ting moved his body and disappeared on the spot. Loggins' attack failed again. 3. Wang Ting suddenly appeared behind Loggins and said calmly, "You have a hard head." Loggins' expression changed, and he panicked. He took a step forward without much thought and spurted out. A gust of strong wind followed him, striking him at the speed of lightning. A dull thud was heard. Loggins felt a sharp pain on the back of his head, sending him into a daze. He stumbled and almost fell flat on the ground. Numerous questions popped into his mind. He could tell distinctively that it wasn't a fist. It felt like a huge metal brick. Before he could think further, another gust of wind struck him. Loggins didn't have any time to react. The object smashed the back of his head again. This time, he couldn't withstand it and collapsed to the ground. "Don't you have a tough head? Why are you collapsing after just 2 blows?" Wang Ting's calm voice entered his ears. Loggins turned hurriedly and saw a golden brick in Wang Ting's hand. He was shocked. What about me?" Wang Ting played with the brick in his hand with a smile. "Are you surprised? How's the hardness of my brick? Is it harder than your head? Why do you have a weapon?" Loggins asked in disbelief. "Oh, I took one from the wall." Wang Ting came up with a random excuse. Loggins almost went mad. His expression turned ugly, and he said, "You're cheating. You won't be able to prove that you're stronger than me even if you win. Idiot, who cares?" Wang Ting rolled his eyes, deciding not to waste any more time. He raised the brick and brought it down on Loggins' head. Loggins' pupils constricted. He kept retreating to dodge the brick, but it was all in vain. Visit Me for extra chapters. The emotionless brick landed on Loggins' head several times. Where did he get the courage from? Loggins was infuriated, but this emotion was soon overpowered by the pain in his head. He started screaming uncontrollably. "Bastard, you shouldn't hit a person's face." "Ah, Wang Ting, I hate you." After some time, Loggins' voice died down. He wasn't able to scream anymore. "I'm getting out of practice since I haven't been using this brick lately." "Not bad, I can practice it on you," Wang Ting said slowly. He finally stopped and let out a long sigh. Loggins hadn't fainted yet. He felt like vomiting blood out of frustration. This brat was using him as practice. Wang Ting stared at Loggins' badly bruised face and touched his chin. He said guiltily, "Look, why do you have to use your head when fighting with me? You got me excited. I wanted to know which one is harder, the brick or your head. You can't blame me. It's your fault." Fart. Loggins spat out a mouth of blood as boiled in anger. F***K, you beat me up badly only to tell me that it's my fault. Loggins detested Wang Ting, but at the same time, fear crept into his heart involuntarily. He finally understood that the bastard in front of him never went by the book. Any reason was a valid reason for him to attack. Why did he provoke this fellow in the past? Why did he have to step out first? No one else did. He also regretted using his head. His head wouldn't have been beaten up so badly otherwise. Tears of regret flowed down Loggins' face. The top talent from the Oosh Galaxy cried after getting beaten up by Wang Ting. No one might believe this news if they heard it. "Hey, why are you crying so easily? You're acting like a lady." Wang Ting felt speechless when he saw the tear at the edge of Loggins' eye. Loggins couldn't speak, but his heart's exasperation flowed endlessly like the water in a river. He couldn't beat him in a fight or contest of words, so he decided to close his eyes and pretend to be dead. "All right, I shall send you out." Wang Ting shook his head and raised his feet. Before Loggins could react, he had already smashed his head. Loggins' spirit dissipated gradually. As a universe talent, his head was crushed by Wang Ting's single step. In the final moments, Loggins felt extremely humiliated. Killing the spirit might not kill the person directly, but it would still cause great damage to the physical body. Loggins' main body would be unconscious after suffering such a heavy blow. He wouldn't be able to wake up anytime soon. At the same time, he had failed the assessment. Wang Ting remained indifferent. He continued moving forward. The Baron at the center of the labyrinth was astounded. "He killed one of them. As expected of the person I chose. It's rare that such a talent got born on Earth." Then, he sighed. "If he had appeared earlier, I wouldn't have been stuck here for 1,000,000 years. Fortunately, heaven treats me well. They gave me hope when I'm almost at the end of my life. This is the silver lining. However, this fellow is a little strange. What an odd way to kill his talented opponent. I have never seen anyone like him in the universe for as long as I've lived." The figure shook his head. He was caught between laughter and tears. Rocking his chair, he looked at the screen light-heartedly. "This fellow isn't easy to deal with. My current state is too weak. All right, let's release the souls of the star beasts. Let it be a waste if it must be." The figure waved his hand and numerous star beast souls appeared in the labyrinth. They darted in Wang Ting's direction. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 849. If anyone looked at the labyrinth from a bird's-eye view, they would see a complicated and magical maze situated in a space shrouded in mist. There was a faint golden mist hovering around the labyrinth, making it look like a heavenly palace. Only the people inside knew how dangerous this labyrinth was. Half a day had passed since they entered the labyrinth. They could already feel the tiredness on the spiritual level. Finding a way out of the labyrinth exhausted much of their spiritual power. Moreover, other life forms had appeared in the labyrinth. No one knew when they came. They were powerful star beasts that attacked them ruthlessly the instant they met them. In the spiritual labyrinth, no one could use their force, so there was a lack of battle techniques they could use. They realized that they were in an extremely dangerous position when they faced the star beasts. One mistake and they would be brutally mutilated to death. These star beasts were different. They possessed attacking skills. However, they didn't use force attacks either. It was a pure light sphere attack. These light spheres would explode when they got near and cause serious injuries to the martial warrior's spirit. It was a spiritual attack. The labyrinth suddenly became even more dangerous. Everyone shuttled back and forth frantically as they rushed towards the center. The star beasts must be part of the assessment too. Once they reached the end of the labyrinth, they could escape from these star beasts. A loud explosion suddenly rang through the labyrinth. A gigantic beast that looked like a lizard pasted itself on the stone wall as it spurted a light sphere out of its mouth. Wang Ting's expression turned grim. He moved his body like a cat and dodged the light sphere. It crashed into the ground and exploded. A powerful spiritual impact swept through the path. Wang Ting felt the strength of the explosion and understood the power of the attack. A sharp gaze flashed across his eyes, and his lips lifted at a sinister angle. He stared at the lizard star beast. The lizard shuddered for some reason. It felt a chill running through its body. "Little lizard, it's my turn now." Wang Ting smirked and stepped on the ground, which cracked as he shot out like an arrow leaving the bow. The lizard wasn't afraid. It hissed and leaped up from the stone wall, pouncing on Wang Ting. Wang Ting punched forward. His spirit was much more powerful than the other alien martial warriors. Contempt appeared in the lizard's eyes. It seemed to be mocking Wang Ting for overestimating his strength. It opened its wide mouth and wanted to bite him. In terms of size, it was many times bigger than Wang Ting. It would be able to munch him into two with its mouth. But when it closed its maw, there was nothing inside. Wang Ting had disappeared without a trace directly in front of it. The lizard was stunned. It widened its eyes in confusion and glanced around it. What did it bite just now? Here. Wang Ting's voice came from above it. The lizard looked up, and its pupils constricted. Countless sharp spikes were reflected in its pupils. It started to feel a little frightened. Wang Ting waved his hand. His spiritual power turned into sharp beams and rained down. Multiple spiritual spikes pierced through the lizard's gigantic body, pinning it firmly on the ground. The lizard roared in pain. It struggled frantically, but it soon started to lose its vitality. A few moments later, its body turned into countless dots of light and dispersed in the air. As expected, it's a soul. Wang Ting landed on the ground. His gaze was sharp. This lizard reminded him of the holy knight called Magus from Mount Saint. There were similar souls in his death space. However, this lizard star beast was stronger than those souls. If Wang Ting didn't possess spiritual skills, he wouldn't be able to kill this star beast easily. Earlier, Wang Ting had executed the spiritual illusion skill and created an illusion of himself to fool the lizard. This was how he was able to catch it off guard. Wang Ting looked at the area where the lizard disappeared. There were a few attribute bubbles floating there. Planetary Realm Spirit * 103 attribute bubbles merged into Wang Ting's body. He was stunned for a moment before happiness overtook him. 50 points of origin of soul. The lizard had dropped 50 points of origin of soul. Visit Ria Me for extra chapters. He knew how difficult it was to drop the origin of soul attribute. This was the energy stored in the depth of one's soul. It was extremely precious. 50 points of origin of soul merged into Wang Ting's origin of soul. It felt so comfortable that he almost moaned. The tremble came from his very soul. It felt incredible. His spirit and enlightenment attributes rose slightly too. There were 100 points of planetary realm spirit attributes too. It caused a rise in his spirit attribute. 2 consecutive increases. Amazing. Lastly, there was a spiritual skill. Spiritual missile. This was the light sphere the lizard used a moment ago. It was a powerful move. Most importantly, it could cover a wide range. Once it exploded, anything within a certain area would be affected. 10 points of spiritual missile. Wang Ting looked at his attributes panel. A new line had appeared in the spiritual techniques portion. Spiritual missile, 100, well-versed. 10 points of spiritual missile were enough for him to advance from the foundation to the well-versed stage. Wang Ting's eyes shone brightly. At first, he felt that he was a little unlucky to meet the lizard, but now, he realized that his luck was not bad. He received a rare spiritual battle technique so easily without spending a single cent. Others couldn't experience this amazing feeling. There must be other star beast souls. Let me find all of them and kill them. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. He moved his feet and started running. The stone wall in front collapsed as Wang Ting rushed out. He pushed forward with brute force all the way until the end. Very soon, he saw another star beast soul. This was a hideous dog with 2 heads. Before Wang Teng came, it was staring at another alien martial warrior. The alien martial warrior was in a poor state. His forehead was covered with cold sweat, and his clothes were a mess. He must have suffered greatly because of this double-headed dog. When Wang Teng appeared, both parties turned and looked at him. The alien martial warrior was elated. It ran towards him while the double-headed dog was focused on Wang Teng. The instant the alien martial warrior moved, the double-headed dog started charging toward Wang Teng too. Both of its heads barked simultaneously. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 850. One in front and one at the back. Both rushed towards Wang Teng. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. It was laughable how the alien candidate wanted Wang Teng to contribute his strength. Wang Teng, this double-headed star beast is very strong. Quick, help me, or we'll both be eliminated. The alien candidate sped over. How strong? Wang Teng stood still and asked. The alien candidate was stunned and confused for a moment. Why are you asking me that question when I've already told you it's very strong? There must be something wrong with his brain. However, he still replied quickly, very strong. Even if we team up, we might not be able to beat it. If that's the case, I'll retreat. Bye. Wang Teng turned and ran, leaving him behind. What? The alien candidate was stunned again. Director, this script isn't right. He went crazy the moment Wang Teng ran away. Just at that moment, a couple of barks sounded behind him, and a foul wind swept over. Damn it. The alien candidate didn't think much and rolled to the left to avoid getting bitten. 2 crisp sounds could be heard when the double-headed dog closed its mouth. Its gaze turned even more ferocious when it missed. It stopped in its tracks and twisted its body. It kicked its hind legs, pouncing toward the alien candidate from a height. The alien candidate couldn't care more about his status. He continued rolling around on the ground to avoid the star beast. There was no way better than this. He felt helpless and aggrieved. He was cursing Wang Teng in his heart. The double-headed dog barked. It was too agile and fast. Even though the alien candidate was rolling and dodging, he was clearly in its grasp. The 2 heads attacked at the same time and caught the alien candidate's arms with their fangs. The alien candidate screamed in pain. His arm was bitten off immediately. However, there was no blood. His arm just turned into light rays and dissipated in the air. The other head of the dog then bit the alien candidate's thigh and yanked again. In the midst of all the screaming, the thigh was tossed into the air and was swallowed by the double-headed dog. Howl. The double-headed dog raised its head high and let out a contented and satisfied howl. Having lost an arm and a leg, the alien candidate lay on the ground. He was on the verge of death and had completely given up. Damn, how miserable. A voice sounded amid his despair. The alien candidate turned and looked up and saw Wang Teng squatting there. He was looking at him with sympathy. You. The alien candidate's eyes widened. He was about to burst into anger. Didn't this bastard run away? Why is he still here? I'm sorry. While I was escaping, I suddenly felt that it was not very nice to leave you alone. That's why I came back. But I didn't think you would be defeated so quickly. This puppy has really taken care of you. Wang Teng scratched his head and said. Fart. The alien candidate wanted to vomit blood. Look at what he was saying. You can try it yourself, bastard. The double-headed dog noticed Wang Teng and turned its head to look at him. It grunted and exposed its fangs, looking ferocious. Wow, what a fierce puppy. Wang Teng patted his chest and took a few steps back. The double-headed dog was an intelligent star beast. When it heard Wang Teng calling it a puppy, it felt offended. It barked and threw down the alien candidate before it bolted towards Wang Teng. Whoa, so fierce. I'm so scared. Wang Teng jumped back, but he didn't dodge. He stared at the double-headed dog as it charged over. The double-headed dog opened its enormous mouths and bit Wang Teng. It missed, only managing to bite the air. Wang Ting's body had disappeared. The double-headed dog was confused. It glanced around, trying to search for any signs of Wang Ting. Suddenly, it felt something heavy on its body. The human's voice floated into its ear. "Not bad, little puppy. Your broad shoulders are comfortable. You can be a mount." The double-headed dog was outraged. It swung its body violently as if trying to throw Wang Ting down. Visit Ria.me for extra chapters. Don't be nervous. Let's have some fun first. Wang Ting sniggered. The double-headed dog ignored him and continued swinging its body. Its heads twisted at an exaggerated angle as it tried to tear at Wang Ting. "Haha, you can't bite me." Wang Ting leaned back and dodged the double-headed dog's mouths. The alien martial warrior was stunned. Was it this simple to deal with the double-headed dog? He didn't dare to believe his eyes. It felt unreal. Wang Ting didn't do much. He just sat on the shoulders of the dog and the beast couldn't do anything to him. He should have done it if he knew how effective this method was. "All right, stop spinning. I'm getting dizzy," Wang Ting said after some time. The double-headed dog bellowed. It wanted to bite Wang Ting to death, so it didn't listen to him. "Looks like I have to do it the hard way." Wang Ting sighed. A golden brick appeared in his hand. He didn't waste any time and slammed it on the double-headed dog's heads. His hand speed was amazing. The double-headed dog's mind went blank from the beating. Its heads throbbed violently, and it could see stars in all its 4 eyes. "How can you be so fierce as a little puppy?" Wang Ting mumbled as he hurled the brick down ruthlessly. He seemed extremely skilled at it. "Woof, woof," the double-headed dog yelped in pain. Anyone who heard its cries would tear up. However, Wang Ting showed no signs of stopping. He continued smashing until its head swelled up like balloons. "Are you going to listen to me?" Wang Ting asked. Howl Tilda. The double-headed dog lay on the ground and growled weakly. "What? You're not going to? Are you going to listen?" Howl Tilda. The double-headed dog groaned in a low and flattering tone. It didn't dare to resist anymore. "I didn't know a little puppy like you could be so stubborn." Wang Ting sighed and shook his head. The double-headed dog, it cried because it felt misunderstood. Burying its 2 heads on the ground, it wailed pitifully. Then, it used its claw and carved a huge word on the ground. "Yes. Huh. You can write." Wang Ting stopped and exclaimed in surprise. "You could have done it sooner. I wouldn't have beaten you up so badly. My hands feel sore too. You're more like a beast than I am. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 851. Have fun playing. I'll leave first. 1. The martial warrior was confused by what he saw. He stared at the sky with a single thought in his mind. In this world, were shameless people stronger? This was a serious question. Really. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was true. Yes, it must be true. It has to be. While the alien martial warrior was doubting his life and reconstructing his perception of the world, Wang Ting had already leaped down from the double-headed dog's back. The double-headed dog remained obedient. It gave a little whine and sounded pitiful. It used its claws to cover its eyes and peeked at Wang Ting. The problem was, it had 2 heads, 4 eyes, and only 2 claws. This was a little difficult. It had no choice. It covered 2 of its eyes and turned the other head away. It would pretend that the head was dead. It suddenly felt lucky that it didn't have 3 heads. 2 claws were definitely not enough. Wang Ting glanced at the attribute bubbles dropped by the double-headed dog and picked them up. Planetary Realm Spirit *80 Origin of Soul *10. There were 2 attribute bubbles. One was Planetary Realm Spirit and the other was Origin of Soul. However, it was smaller than the bubbles dropped by the lizard. Should I kill this double-headed dog? Wang Ting squinted. He stared at the double-headed dog below his feet with a cunning gaze. The double-headed dog shuddered. Its eyes were filled with innocence as it stared at Wang Ting weakly. When Wang Ting remained indifferent, it rubbed its head against his legs in a flattering manner. It almost rolled over and begged for mercy. Wang Teng started self-reflecting when he saw the huge dog head rubbing against his legs. Did he go overboard? He kicked the big head. Stop acting. Be obedient. I won't kill you yet. Sobbed Tilda. The double-headed dog's eyes lit up. It nodded frantically like a cowardly dog. Wang Teng was caught between laughter and tears. He looked away from this coward and walked towards the alien martial warrior. The double-headed dog followed behind obediently. The human and the dog arrived in front of the alien martial warrior. What was the alien martial warrior feeling at this moment? There was only one emotion: despair. Before this, there was only one dog. Now, it became a dog and a human worse than the dog. If you want to kill me, do it quickly. Don't waste time. He remained strong-willed. He knew that he would be eliminated since he had lost an arm and a leg, so he decided to remain firm and not let others belittle him. Wang Teng was stunned. He kept quiet and sized up the alien martial warrior with his hand on his chin. He was wondering how he should kill this man. Wang Teng's gaze gave the alien martial warrior goosebumps. Fear popped up in his heart when he remembered how he had treated the double-headed dog. The alien martial warrior gritted his teeth and raised his intact arm, punching his own head. Bang! The alien martial warrior fell with a smile on his face. He was finally free. He turned into droplets of light and dissipated in the air. Wang Teng froze on the spot and stared at the disappearing body absent-mindedly. What just happened? What did I do? Why did this happen? 3 questions popped into his mind. This showed how puzzled he was. There was no one to reply to him. Am I very scary? Wang Teng turned and asked the double-headed dog while pointing at himself. The double-headed dog wanted to nod, but when it saw Wang Teng's face, it immediately shook its head without any hesitation. I knew it. I'm so handsome. How can I be scary? That's impossible, Wang Teng nodded and said. As long as you're happy. The double-headed dog snorted in its heart. Wang Teng picked up the attribute bubbles dropped by the alien martial warrior. Imperial Realm Spirit * 260 Imperial Realm Enlightenment * 220 Let's go. Wang Teng stopped dawdling in this area. He leaped on the double-headed dog's back and pointed in a certain direction. Grunt Tilda. The double-headed dog growled in a low voice. It lifted its feet and started running. Wang Teng sat on the dog's back. He looked into the distance with his hands above his eyes. He felt amazed. Not bad. You got used to it quickly. You're a professional mount now. The double-headed dog, oh, you seem a little slow. Hurry up, don't waste my time. Wang Teng scolded. Whimper Tilda. The double-headed dog whined. You sound as if you're blaming me. The double-headed dog shook its head fervently. No, it wasn't. It wouldn't dare to think that way. Never mind, I won't argue with you. Wang Teng shook his head and placed his hand on its body. Come, let me give you some energy. How can you run faster without energy? White light shimmered around his hands, and a pure spiritual power seeped into the double-headed dog's body. Howl! The double-headed dog trembled. It felt so comfortable that it groaned. Shut up and run. Wang Teng slapped its heads. The double-headed dog shrunk its neck. It didn't dare to make any more mistakes. Putting its 4 legs to good use, its speed increased immediately. It was a few times faster than before. Roar! After some time, they met a star beast soul. It rushed towards Wang Teng and the double-headed dog. Don't stop. Continue running, Wang Teng ordered. The double-headed dog hesitated. In the end, it chose to obey Wang Teng's command. A sharp glint appeared in its eyes as it charged toward the other star beast soul. The star beast soul was attracted by the star beast. It turned vigilant and started forming a light sphere in its mouth. Wang Teng silently gathered 3 spirit spikes. He waved his hand and threw them out. Chapter 852. Have fun playing. I'll leave first. 2. Swoosh. 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 A shrill sound was heard as the spikes shot toward the star beast. Roar. The star beast soul detected the danger and wanted to evade it. However, it had nowhere to go. The double-headed dog was on one side and the 3 deadly spiritual spikes on the other. Boom! It threw the light sphere hastily at the double-headed dog and hurriedly evaded to the side. The double-headed dog dodged like a cat with Wang Ting on its back, avoiding the light sphere. Wang Ting gave a cold smile. Spiritual power surged out and landed on the 3 spiritual spikes. Long-distance controlling. The 3 spiritual spikes made an abrupt turn and continued flying toward the Star Beast soul with the same power. Boom! The Star Beast soul couldn't dodge anymore. Its body got penetrated by the 3 spiritual spikes and was nailed firmly to the ground. Nice teamwork. Wang Ting laughed and picked up the attribute bubbles. He ordered the double-headed dog to continue moving. The human and the dog ran wildly in the labyrinth, using brute force to push their way through. Whenever they met another Star Beast soul, the double-headed dog would attract the Star Beast's attention while Wang Ting would launch his sneak attack. Their cooperation allowed them to emerge victorious every time. All the Star Beast souls they met were killed by them. This allowed Wang Ting to gain a large number of attribute bubbles. His spirit and origin of soul rose tremendously, and he managed to raise his spiritual missile to the perfected stage. The gains were not bad. Origin of soul, 5350 spirit, 1350 10,000, planetary realm, spiritual missile, 15300, perfected. Wang Ting nodded in satisfaction as he looked at the changes on the attributes panel. His efforts didn't go to waste. He counted his gains as he sat on the double-headed dog's back. It continued dashing toward the center of the labyrinth without slowing down. After some time, there were no signs of Star Beast souls around them anymore. They didn't meet other alien martial warriors either. We should be reaching our destination. Wang Ting asked the double-headed dog to stop and sized up his surroundings. Howl Tilda the double-headed dog suddenly nodded as if it was confirming Wang Ting's words. You know it. Wang Ting was surprised. After some thought, he understood the reason. These Star Beast souls must be raised by the owner of this labyrinth. Hence, it was normal for them to know where the center of the labyrinth was. Since you know, you can lead the way, Wang Ting said. The double-headed dog barked obediently and glanced around it. Then, it selected a direction before running. In the center of the labyrinth. At this moment, Argus, Kathu, Pullin, Biluo, and another person had already arrived outside the center of the labyrinth. Besides the 4 renowned talents, there was another alien martial warrior. There were 5 people in total. They didn't know if the others were still on the way or had been eliminated. The 5 alien martial warriors were looking in front of them with grave expressions. Their paths were blocked by numerous enormous Star Beast souls. These Star Beast souls stood in front of them like hills, staring down on them with hostility. There was an exit behind these Star Beasts. Everyone's eyes lit up. All of them noticed the exit and knew that it must lead to the final destination of the labyrinth. The legacy of the Baron from the Great Qian Empire was right inside. However, they had a deep impression of how powerful and hard to deal with these Star Beast souls were. Thus, they looked a little constipated. They couldn't use their force in this labyrinth. This was exasperating when facing these Star Beast souls. There's 5 of us and 9 Star Beast souls. How are we supposed to fight them? The unfamiliar alien martial warrior asked. The 4 universal talents didn't reply to him. They could see the difference. It was too obvious. The problem was, there was no other way besides using brute force. I wonder if there are other survivors. Biluo looked around. She thought of Wang Ting. They have probably been eliminated. It's quite late. Kathu shook his head. Even Wang Ting isn't here. Pullin shook his head and smiled. I viewed him as one of my competitors. He's just an earthling. His foundation is too weak, Kathu frowned and replied. He seemed to find it a little regretful too. Biluo sighed. She silently agreed with Kathu. Why are you feeling unfortunate for him? He's just an earthling, Argus said arrogantly. Boom. A loud explosion was heard as soon as he finished. The wall behind them collapsed, throwing dust into the air. Everyone squinted and turned around to look behind them. They were dumbfounded. Who's this? I heard you guys talking about me the moment I came. I feel honored to receive your concern. A voice gradually floated over from behind the dust. Everyone was stunned. Wang Ting, Biluo exclaimed in pleasant surprise. Hey, you're here too. Wang Ting was riding on the double-headed dog. It stepped forward and appeared in front of everyone. He smiled ambiguously at the other martial warriors, causing them to turn red in the face. He appeared a second after they talked behind his back. Moreover, he had heard what they said. Even they felt a little awkward. But soon, everyone realized the presence of the double-headed dog. They were flabbergasted and glared at the star beast soul vigilantly. What's with this star beast soul? Biluo asked. Oh, I found a ride for myself, Wang Teng replied casually. A ride? Everyone took some time to react. Argus' gaze flickered, and his expression turned a little ugly. He thought that Wang Ting had been eliminated, yet he came. To add salt to injury, he tamed a star beast soul to be his mount. This was proof of his ability. What a tough competitor. Wang Ting, how did you tame this star beast soul? Pullin asked. He couldn't control his curiosity. I beat it until it listened to me, Wang Teng replied calmly. He didn't conceal the truth. Beat it? Pullin stared at him in disbelief. Wang Ting had no obligation to explain to him. He didn't care if Pullin believed him. He looked past everyone and saw the exit. Of course, he also noticed the 9 gigantic star beast souls guarding the exit. The situation was obvious. Wang Ting touched his chin and asked, You came first. Have you figured out what to do? The 5 felt embarrassed, especially Argus and Kathu. They were renowned talents, but they couldn't find a way to deal with these star beast souls and were belittled by someone else. It's all right. I think that we can just fight our way through, Wang Ting said. They were speechless. They thought that Wang Ting had a good idea, but in the end, they still had to use brute force. What was the point of asking them? Roar. The 9 star beast souls in front suddenly bellowed. 3 of them continued guarding the exit while the other 6 charged toward the martial warriors. Boom. The giant star beasts stomped on the ground loudly. The entire labyrinth trembled. Even though this was a spiritual labyrinth, it replicated the real world perfectly. All the effects that should be present were available. The martial warriors' expressions changed. They didn't expect the star beast souls to attack suddenly. No one was prepared, but as famous talents, they reacted quickly. Disperse and destroy them one by one, Argus shouted. He rushed towards the side and evaded the jaws of a star beast soul. The others listened to his suggestion instinctively. Each of them lured a star beast soul away and started fighting with it. An intense battle erupted in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. Loud explosions resounded in the air. The star beast souls seemed impatient. They used their most powerful attacks directly and spurted spiritual missiles out of their mouths continuously. The spiritual missiles flew towards the martial warriors and exploded in all directions. The alien martial warriors could only evade. They didn't dare to receive the light spheres directly. Even so, they were still affected by the residual impact of the missiles. Their faces turned whiter, and their spiritual power was being exhausted at a visible rate. Compared to them, Wang Ting appeared surprisingly relaxed. When the others were still evading, he had already killed his star beast soul. Have fun playing. I'll leave first. Wang Ting spoke calmly as he walked towards the 3 star beast souls guarding the door. Everyone. Chapter 853. The alien martial warriors' expressions changed when they saw Wang Ting strolling toward the 3 star beast souls guarding the exit. How could he kill a star beast soul so quickly? They looked behind Wang Ting. The gigantic star beast soul was lying on the ground, pinned to death. It was slowly turning into light droplets. The martial warriors were dumbstruck. They finally understood why Wang Ting was able to defeat a star beast soul so easily. He knew an extremely rare spiritual attack. The best way to deal with star beast souls was to use spiritual attacks. Wang Ting possessed just that, so he had the most advantage in this assessment. F***K, this bastard is cheating. However, the Baron from the Great Qian Empire didn't stop him. Although he knew about it, he didn't care. Silence meant consent. They didn't have the right to complain. They stared at Wang Teng as he casually walked to the exit. They could almost see the legacy flying away with its wings. Even though there were 3-star beast souls guarding it, they didn't think that they could stop Wang Teng. As someone who knew spiritual attacks, there was no difference between having the guards and not having any. The only thing they could do was to defeat the star beast souls in front of them as quickly as possible. It would be depressing if they worked so hard but couldn't get anything in return. The 3-star beast souls guarding the door didn't move a single inch. They stared at Wang Ting ferociously as he got closer. Then, they opened their mouths and bellowed. The 3 enormous bodies laid out horizontally in front of Wang Teng and gave a deafening roar. The impact was strong. Other people might have retreated uncontrollably in fear. Not Wang Ting. He dug his ear and squinted. Why are you guys making so much noise? Do you think he'll be frightened? Come, show them. He patted the double-headed dog below him. The double-headed dog, Sigma, it didn't dare to disobey Wang Teng, so it barked at the 3-star beast souls that were much taller than it with both of its heads. The 3-star beast souls looked down at the double-headed dog and then exchanged glances with one another. They seemed to be wondering why this little idiot dared to shout at them. At the same time, Wang Ting leaped up from the double-headed dog's back and shouted coldly, "Release your ultimate move." The double-headed dog and Wang Ting had learned to work well together after traveling through the labyrinth. Hence, when it heard his words, it rolled its eyes secretly and released its spiritual missile. It opened both of its mouths and formed 2 balls of light spheres simultaneously. Then, it shook its head and hurled the light spheres at the 3-star beast souls from 2 different directions. This was a little difficult. The 2 heads were very close together, so it wasn't easy for it to throw the attacks in 2 different directions. However, under Wang Ting's guidance, it managed to learn the skill. 2 of the star beast souls had to move at the same time to evade the 2 spiritual missiles. 2 explosions occurred. 2 deep holes were formed at the spot where the 2-star beast souls were at a moment ago. They were infuriated. They charged toward the double-headed dog at the speed of light. They launched their own spiritual missiles too. The 2-star beast souls threw light spheres at the double-headed dog in an attempt to kill it. The double-headed dog moved like the wind, bolting right and left as it dodged the spiritual missiles. Wang Teng disregarded it temporarily since it was able to take care of itself. His gaze landed on the last star beast soul. This was a giant crocodile. It was lofty and huge with pitch-black scale armor wrapped around it. It looked savage. Roaring, it swept its tail over horizontally. Wang Teng raised his eyebrows. His figure disappeared instantly, leaving only a shadow behind. The large tail struck the air and created a sonic boom. The shadow of Wang Teng dispersed. The giant crocodile got a shock. Suddenly, Wang Teng appeared above it. He rubbed his hands together and formed a light sphere. It hovered over his palm. The light sphere grew bigger and bigger. In the blink of an eye, it turned from a ping-pong ball into a football. The spiritual missile Wang Teng created was much bigger than the ones formed by these star beast souls. The spiritual power condensed inside was also more powerful. The crocodile felt a chill down its spine. It immediately ran away without any hesitation. Visit Riadel. Me for extra chapters. Why are you running away? You were so fierce just now. Wang Ting chuckled and threw the light sphere violently. It soared through the air at lightning speed, turning into a beam of light as it fired toward the crocodile. They were too close for the crocodile to evade it. The next instant, the spiritual missile exploded above the crocodile. The crocodile was swept into the frightening ball of energy, which only dissipated gradually after some time. The miserable state of the crocodile was revealed. It seemed to have suffered inhumane torture. It's not dead. Wang Teng was surprised. Then, his gaze turned dangerous. He wondered how he should kill this crocodile. The crocodile was astounded. A chill swept through its body, and it moved to the side. It allowed Wang Teng to pass through the exit. The crowd was stunned by the shamelessness of this crocodile. Wait, it had no shame at all. Wang Ting stared at the crocodile strangely before walking toward the exit vigilantly. The giant crocodile looked at Wang Ting in fear. It didn't stop him anymore and appeared extremely timid. Everyone stared at Wang Ting anxiously as he walked into the exit. Yet, they couldn't do anything. Argus suddenly pushed back the star beast soul that he was fighting with and dashed towards the exit. F***K, Hes running away first. Cathus' expression changed. He shouted and pushed his opponent back too. Then, he flew towards the exit right after Argus. The other 3 martial warriors followed consecutively. The star beast souls behind them chased after them relentlessly. "Boss, this is the only way I can help you." The double-headed dog dashed over and chased after the 2 martial warriors ferociously. Argus and Cathu were almost at the exit. They were elated. Right then, the giant crocodile soul appeared at the exit once again and blocked it with its large body. It roared at them threateningly and formed a spiritual missile in its mouth. It spat it at Argus and Cathu. Argus and Cathus' faces turned black. They stopped in their tracks and jumped to the side. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 854. The center of the labyrinth was a little out of Wang Ting's expectations. After passing through the exit, he walked through a 10 meters long path without any danger. Then, he reached a place that looked like the garden of a palace. Plants and flowers flourished. Trees cast beautiful shadows on the ground, making it look heavenly. Yet, this wasn't the strangest part. The most incredible thing was, when Wang Ting raised his head and looked up, the gray sky had turned into a night sky with countless shimmering stars dotted on it. The stars shone brightly. It was gorgeous. What attracted his attention was a huge planet. It hung above his head and filled up half of the sky. "Don't be astounded. This is just a piece of cake for me." A calm voice sounded from the side. The speaker was smiling. Wang Ting retracted his gaze and turned around. The Baron was half lying on a comfortable chair with a thick and ancient-looking book in his hand. There was a small coffee table beside him with hot tea and exquisite snacks on it. Wang Ting was stunned when he saw his relaxed posture in the labyrinth. This wasn't what a person who was about to die would do. "Do you find it strange?" The Baron put down the book and smiled gently. Then, he answered his own question. "A million years will be torture if I don't find something to do." Wang Ting nodded and walked over. "Have a seat." The Baron waved his hand and a chair appeared out of thin air, signaling Wang Ting to sit down. "You're being too polite." Wang Ting sat down as he spoke. The Baron shook his head helplessly. He had a better understanding of Wang Ting's shamelessness. "I'm not surprised to see you here. I placed my bet on you, and indeed, you didn't disappoint me. Elder, did you notice it already?" Wang Ting sighed. "Oh my, I'm so amazing. Can you let me finish speaking?" the Baron said after pausing for a second. "Of course, please continue. You're indeed outstanding and fulfill my criteria. I believe that my legacy will shine in your hands again and won't be buried," the Baron continued. "Don't worry. I won't disappoint you," Wang Ting promised confidently. Promises were easy to make. They didn't cost anything. The Baron seemed satisfied. He nodded and got up. "Come with me." He turned around. He didn't do anything, yet a towering golden palace suddenly appeared in front of him. "What is this?" Wang Ting was stunned. "This is the legacy I left behind before I died." The Baron raised his feet and walked into the palace. When they reached the entrance, the 5 meters tall golden gate of the palace slowly opened by itself. Wang Ting hesitated for a moment, but he didn't stop. He followed closely behind. After walking in, Wang Ting noticed that the inside was extremely spacious. The decorations were extravagant. Everything seemed to be giving off a golden glow. The walls were filled with bookshelves that were packed with countless books. It was a dazzling sight. A stairway leading up lay quietly at the corner. "That is the 2nd floor. It's still too early for you to go up. Once you reach the celestial stage, you will have the right to go to the 2nd floor," the Baron said. You're paving the way for me step by step, Wang Teng laughed and said. I need to be thorough while I'm searching for my successor. Every step must be treated with care during cultivation. A single mistake can ruin your foundation and your potential will be limited. There's only one ultimate cosmos stage martial warrior in one universe. You need to understand the difficulty of it. Wang Teng nodded in deep thought. All right, let's stop wasting time. Sit down cross-legged in the center of the palace and accept my legacy key. You can only look at the books in this palace after you accept it. Legacy key? Wang Teng asked curiously. Visit Ria Del. Me for extra chapters. Legacy key is a spiritual mark. You will be recognized by this legacy palace after you get this mark. This is the safety net I created when I was still alive, the Baron said. Wang Teng nodded and sat obediently on the ground. The Baron crossed his legs and sat opposite him. Release your spirit and accept my legacy key. Don't resist. If it fails, the legacy key will disappear. We only have one chance. Pray for yourself. It can fail. Wang Teng was surprised. Of course. It's hard to deal with anything at the spiritual level, the Baron explained patiently. Please be gentle. I'm afraid that my little soul can't accept your vigorous insertion, Wang Teng said weakly. I think you're being vulgar, but I can't prove it. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, control your breathing and calm down. Release your spirit. Wang Teng kept quiet and closed his eyes. He released his spirit. The Baron raised his finger and pointed at Wang Teng's forehead. A beam of white light shot out, entering Wang Teng's forehead. Wang Teng's spiritual soul went back to his body. At the same time, his mind trembled, and a ray of light gathered in it gradually. It turned into the Baron. He glanced around and was overjoyed. Laughing loudly, the Baron said, Amazing, this is the widest consciousness I have ever seen. Your talent is amazing. Thank you for your compliment. Wang Teng's figure appeared and replied calmly. You don't have to be humble. Not many people can be compared with you, the Baron said. Under Wang Teng's surprised gaze, a mysterious mark appeared on his hand. Golden light shone, and gradually, the ball of light turned into the shape of a key. This is the legacy key. Prepare to receive it, the Baron said softly. Wang Teng nodded. The legacy key turned into a beam of light and flew towards him. The legacy key slammed into Wang Teng's spiritual form and exploded. It turned into golden strings and twirled around his body, tying him up. His spiritual form froze. He couldn't move. What are you doing? Wang Teng was shocked. Ha ha ha, your body is mine now. The Baron's face changed abruptly. The calmness on it disappeared, with greed and desire filling up his gaze. He stared at Wang Teng's spiritual form intently and laughed in joy. What do you mean? What do you want to do? Wang Teng was dumbfounded. What do I mean? I'm going to snatch your body. I've been waiting for 1,000,000 years and finally found what I want. The Baron was elated. He turned into a ball of light. A large mouth appeared on the ball of light and bit at Wang Teng's spiritual form. Chapter 855. Wang Teng watched the Baron as he turned into a ball of light. There was nothing on it except a mouth. Honestly, it looked quite unique. The anxiousness and surprise on his face vanished at the appearance of this scene. Unexpectedly, he became exceptionally calm. There was even a mocking smile at the edge of his lips. Was this your plan all along? The Baron was stunned. He was surprised by Wang Teng's composure. Also, from his tone, he seemed to have noticed his scheme already. However, he had revealed his true motive, so he couldn't stop. The Baron opened his mouth wide, wanting to swallow Wang Teng in one gulp. Wang Teng's spiritual form couldn't move because he was bound by the golden strings. He could only stare at the mouth as it came for him. Peals of laughter came from the ball of light as the Baron felt that the outcome was settled. Ha ha ha, he was just about to swallow Wang Teng. But very soon, he noticed that he didn't bite anything. There was only air in his mouth. Is it delicious? Wang Teng's voice appeared behind him. How is this possible? The Baron returned to his human form. Appalled, He turned around instantly and stared at Wang Teng as if he were a ghost. Before he could react, his pupils constricted as he got swallowed by boundless darkness. Within a split second, he was submerged in pitch-black darkness. The Baron noticed, to his astonishment, that a frightening force was directly used on his spiritual form. His spiritual form trembled violently and was on the verge of disintegration. He glanced around the endless darkness but saw nothing. His spiritual form was being corroded continuously by the power of the tremor. He started shouting in fear. Wang Ting didn't reply to him. He had used up a large amount of his origin of soul to execute the abyss burial. This was a battle technique he gained from a holy knight on Mount Saint. It was finally put to use. It was used on a person's soul, which was their spiritual form. It could knock a person's spirit out of his body. If used directly on the spiritual form, it could destroy it and make it disappear from the world. Without this powerful skill, the holy knight who possessed the death space wouldn't have been able to control so many spirits. Wang Ting knew that the Baron wasn't dead before he entered the command room. His spirit was weak, but it hadn't dissipated. However, after stepping into the command room, the Baron appeared and told them that he was dead. Only a part of his consciousness remained. Wang Ting noticed that he was hiding something or had an ulterior motive. But he was indeed powerful. He managed to knock the Devil Lords unconscious. Wang Ting didn't dare to take the risk, so he laid low and waited for a chance to retaliate. He didn't lose his mind because of the legacy. He remained vigilant, biding his time to give the lethal blow. He scrolled through all his battle techniques and finally fixed his mind on the abyss burial, a skill he hadn't used ever since he received it. He immediately came up with a plan. First, he would raise the abyss burial from the well-versed to the perfected stage. That cost him more than 80,000 blank attributes. Wang Teng didn't think that the blank attributes it required would multiply by many times the higher it got, needing tens of thousand points to reach the perfected stage. However, his opponent was a Cosmos stage martial warrior. Even if he was very weak, he didn't dare to look down or underestimate him. Abyss burial, 50,000, perfected. Reality proved that the perfected stage of the abyss burial was exceptional. Even the spiritual form of a Cosmos stage marital warrior could be destroyed. The Baron had already lost his composure as a formidable martial warrior. He screamed in fear, "Stop, Wang Ting, don't you want the legacy? Go to hell with your legacy." Wang Ting's voice was cold. He wasn't enticed by the Baron and continued instilling more origin of soul into his abyss burial. The Baron's spiritual form trembled violently. One of his hands exploded. "No, stop, I'll pass my legacy to you. Please stop it." He was almost wailing as he looked at his disintegrating spiritual form with a squint. "You don't seem like a Cosmos stage martial warrior. Why are you so afraid of dying?" Wang Teng snorted. Visit Riadel. Me for extra chapters. What is dignity when you are dead? Staying alive is the most important thing. Wang Ting, let me go and I will pass my legacy to you. From then on, I'll mind my own business and never interrupt you. The Baron panicked. "I'm sorry, I just want to kill you now." Wang Teng scoffed. The lower part of the Baron's body exploded at this moment. The excruciating pain at the spiritual level caused him to howl in agony and pain. However, the disintegration didn't stop. Under the violent tremors of the abyss burial, the half of his remaining body started dissipating into the air, from his stomach to his chest. His body turned into droplets of light that were swallowed by the darkness around it. Despair welled up in his heart. He didn't think that this would be his ending after waiting for 1,000,000 years. Why did this happen? He was a Cosmos stage martial warrior. He couldn't die so easily. Wang Ting. The Baron was only left with his head now. He bellowed in anger and made the last attempt to struggle. "You can die now." Wang Ting's gaze turned cold. His spiritual power turned into spiritual spikes, and he hurled them out. The spiritual spikes pierced through the darkness. The Baron's pupils constricted immediately. He could see the spots of light cutting through the darkness. Then, the spirit spikes rained on him like the punishment from heaven and stabbed right into his head. "No, The Baron roared with regret and anger. It was all in vain. His head exploded. The Cosmos Stage martial warrior, who had managed to survive for 1,000,000 years, was finally dead, for real. Wang Ting stopped his abyss burial and the use of his origin of soul. He was panting slightly and his face was a little pale. This was his spiritual form. The exhaustion of his origin of soul was a little overbearing for him. Wang Ting glanced at his attributes panel. His origin of soul rose to 5,680 points after killing the star beast souls. Now, it was lowered to 4,920. This meant that he had used 760 points of origin of soul when he executed the abyss burial. This was a permanent loss. He wouldn't be able to get it back. Wang Ting let out a huge sigh. No wonder this abyss burial was heaven-defying. It required so much fuel to execute. But the result was also satisfactory. He shook the soul of a Cosmos Stage martial warrior to death. Which planetary realm martial warrior could do this? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 856. The Real and Fake Baron. No one would think that a Cosmos Stage martial warrior would die silently in Wang Teng's consciousness. Frustrating. Sorrowful. Dismal. Wang Teng sighed. He felt fortunate. If he didn't have the abyss burial skill or his opponent hadn't been exhausted of his spiritual power for 1,000,000 years, he wouldn't have been able to defeat him. Wang Teng suddenly smiled. No matter what, he won. He killed a Cosmos Stage martial warrior and won this life-or-death battle. Only he knew how dangerous it was. Luckily, he had some gains too. When the Baron died, he dropped a few attribute bubbles. They merged into his consciousness. Planetary Realm Spirit * 5601 Planetary Realm Enlightenment * 4800 Thief * 100 Wang Teng's eyes lit up brightly after he absorbed all the attribute bubbles. A huge gain. He didn't expect his loot to be so amazing. 5,600 points of Planetary Realm Spirit. 4,800 points of Planetary Realm Enlightenment. This was close to half of his Spirit and Enlightenment bar. That meant that the Spirit and Enlightenment attributes he gained from the Baron alone were enough to push his Spirit and Enlightenment past the halfway mark. Spirit, 7550 10,000, Planetary Realm, Enlightenment, 6750 10,000, Planetary Realm. Wang Teng took a deep breath when he saw the changes to his attributes panel. The frustration from losing some of his origin of soul disappeared. It was worth it. It was extremely worth it. His Planetary Realm Spirit and Enlightenment went past the halfway mark instantly. Without this opportunity, he would need to accumulate the attributes for a much longer time before reaching the current number. As expected of a Cosmos Stage martial warrior, of course, the Spirit and Enlightenment of this Cosmos Stage martial warrior shouldn't be at the Planetary Realm. However, this was what he dropped. It might be because his Spirit and Enlightenment had been slowly exhausted over the 1,000,000 years, or there might be other reasons. But Wang Teng was satisfied. He placed his attention on the last attribute bubble. Thief. The Baron dropped a special skill called Thief. Wang Teng didn't know how he could be so lucky. Just like its name, Thief was a skill that allowed him to devour other people's souls and steal all their possessions. This was another heaven-defying technique. The Baron had executed this skill when he tried to devour Wang Teng's soul and snatch his body so that he could come alive again. However, he failed, much less execute his thief skill fully. Had he executed it to its full potential, Wang Teng might have had a harder time trying to deal with him. The success rate of this skill when a higher realm martial warrior executed it on someone weaker than him was extremely high. The weaker martial warrior had almost zero chance of resisting. At this moment, the memories of the thief skill appeared in Wang Teng's mind. These memories turned into enlightenment and became part of him. Thief, 1000, well-versed, 100 points of thief attributes allowed him to jump from the foundation stage to the well-versed stage. Wang Ting let out a long sigh. He almost couldn't control his excitement. Based on the explanation of this skill, the soul was the most important part of life. A person's body could be destroyed, but as long as its soul still remained, It could continue to live. It could even snatch other people's bodies to gain greater talent and raise its martial arts cultivation to a higher level. There were countless lives and numerous races in the universe. Some races had weak talent while others were born with great potential. They possessed planetary stage abilities at birth and didn't need to go through arduous cultivation. Once they became an adult, they would reach the cosmos stage. This gift was incredible. In comparison, the races with weaker talent might have difficulty even reaching the planetary stage after working hard their entire lives. For instance, the people on Earth. Currently, most of them couldn't reach the planetary realm. There were only a few rare gifted martial warriors on the entire planet that had the chance to reach the planetary stage. But their hope of advancing to the cosmos stage was negligible. This was the difference between the human race and the aliens. However, after grasping the thief skill, Wang Teng could snatch a powerful talent from another gifted race. Reaching the cosmos stage was as easy as snapping his finger. Of course, this wasn't the main reason why he was elated. He had the system, so he could gain talents easily and raise them to as high of a level as he wanted. He was delighted because this thief skill could allow him to create more powerful clones. Indeed, clones were the first thing he thought of when he received the thief skill. Wang Teng could create clones of himself. If he combined the two skills together, he could create powerful helpers. Amazing. A smile appeared on his face as he imagined his clones fighting with other powerful martial warriors in the future. Clap, clap. At this moment, a sudden sound appeared in Wang Teng's consciousness. His heart almost stopped. His expression changed, and he immediately turned in the direction of the sound. He saw an unfamiliar figure floating there. Mind you, this was his consciousness. How could he not be astounded upon seeing an unfamiliar presence in his consciousness? Even more, this wasn't the Baron. It was someone he had never seen before. He was wearing a long white robe and gave off a noble aura. He looked no different from a human. He had long black hair with an immortal feel. He was looking at Wang Ting with a strange gaze. He seemed like an elder looking at a younger generation. His gaze was filled with admiration, happiness, and even kindness. However, Wang Ting didn't dare to put down his guard. Who knew what this person was thinking? He might be a sly old fox that had lived for 1,000,000 years like the Baron. If he wasn't careful, he might get eaten up again. Who are you? Wang Ting forced himself to calm down. I'm a Baron from the Great Qian Empire, the man in a white robe said. Wang Teng was stunned. This sounded a little familiar. The Baron said the same thing too. Why was there another Baron? Were there two Barons from the Great Qian Empire? There were only a few Barons, right? Why were there two here? It felt a little cheap. I know what you're thinking. That one before is fake. He's the escaped convict I was chasing many years ago. He got injured by me during our fight and his physical body was destroyed. Unfortunately, I was killed too and only left a spiritual mark to wait for my successor. His soul was still intact, so he was more powerful than me and suppressed me all this time. The man in the white robe smiled and explained slowly. You're real and he's fake. How do I know if you're speaking the truth? Wang Teng asked curiously. Can you prove it? Well, I can't. However, my legacy is here. You will know if I'm real or fake once you get it. The man in the white robe gave a bitter smile. That was what that fellow said. In the end, he wanted to snatch my body. Wang Teng scoffed. I can't snatch your body. I'm just a spiritual mark. Once you inherit my legacy, it'll disappear, the man in the white robe said. That was what the Baron said too, Wang Teng replied. The man's face turned black. He felt that all his paths were blocked by the fake Baron and he had nowhere to go. Wang Teng was a little moved when he saw his expression. Was this the real Baron? Looks like he'll have to take the blame. The man in the white robe shook his head helplessly. He sighed and said, never mind, I'll not trust someone easily after getting fooled by Agulus either. In that case, I'll dissipate the spiritual mark later and you can accept my legacy after that. You will dissipate the spiritual mark. Wang Teng was shocked. It's just a mark. There's no point in its existence after a successor has appeared. The man in the white robe shook his head. Wang Teng believed this man now. He used his eyes of essence to look at him and noticed that he wasn't a spirit. He was honestly just a mark. But before that, I have a few things to ask from you, the man in the white robe continued. Chapter 857. The real legacy. You have a favor to ask. Is this the price to pay for accepting the legacy? Wang Teng asked. It's just a request from me. Since you are going to accept my legacy, you're my successor. It's not too much to ask a favor from you, right? Of course, it will be within your means. I won't force you. The man in the white robe smiled calmly. Won't I seem a little selfish if I don't agree with you? Go ahead. The man smiled again and continued, besides my knowledge, skills, and wealth, my legacy also consists of the Baron status in the Great Qian Empire. What? Wang Teng's expression changed. Yes, it's true. This is a heredity rank. Besides my descendants, my successors will also possess the right to inherit my rank, the man in the white robe said. Why didn't you pass your position to your descendants? You have lived for a long time, so you should have plenty of descendants, right? I don't have any descendants, the man in the white gown replied calmly. Sorry. Wang Teng laughed awkwardly. But I have a disciple, the man in the white robe said softly. Do you have to pause between your sentences? Wang Teng felt speechless. He rolled his eyes angrily and continued, why are you saying this to me when you have a disciple? My disciple was one of the people that persuaded me to chase after Agulus, the man in the white robe answered. However, the information they gave me was fake. You were fooled and died because of it. Wang Teng was astounded. That's right. You were tricked by your disciple? How tragic. You have bad eyesight, Wang Teng complained. The man in the white robe. Cough, anyway, it has been 1,000,000 years. Your disciple is either dead or has become a cosmos stage martial warrior like you. Are you planning to ask me to take revenge? Wang Teng coughed awkwardly and changed the topic. That's why I said you can wait until you have the ability. You won't have a chance now. Although you're saying the truth, it's still heartbreaking, Wang Teng said helplessly. Ha ha ha, I didn't know you can feel frightened too. The man in the white robe laughed. No, I'm not. Why would I be afraid? Wang Teng shook his head. The man in the white robe smiled and said, so, will you accept my request? Of course, why not? I'm receiving your legacy. Unfortunately, I don't like to owe people favors, so I will help you complete your request. This is my way of repaying you, Wang Teng touched his chin and said. The title of the Baron attracted Wang Teng's attention the most. Since he wanted to enter the universe, he needed an identity and a stepping board. Nothing was better than the Baron status of an ancient empire. Based on the other alien martial warriors' attitudes, he knew that this Baron status was noble and powerful. If they knew that this Baron status was within his grasp, would they turn green with envy? Wang Teng wasn't worried about facing a cosmos stage martial warrior. Mind you, he had a bug. Since you don't like to owe people favors, you don't have to accept my legacy, the man teased him. Wang Teng choked. He almost stopped breathing for a moment. He stared at the man in the white robe strangely. This holy-looking figure was quite good at teasing people. He was always the one teasing others, but now, someone managed to refute him. The man in the white robe looked at his constipated expression and laughed. All right, I've finished everything I wanted to say. After you receive the legacy, you will get my token. Your identity will be recognized when you bring this token to the Great Qian Empire. You can decide when you want to go. I won't speak anymore. Good luck to you. This is all I have for you. The man in the white robe looked intently at Wang Teng before his body scattered into droplets of light. A mysterious mark made of runes floated at the spot where he disappeared. It hung in midair quietly. A few attribute bubbles were dropped around the mark. Pick them all. Wang Teng's eyes lit up. He picked up the attribute bubbles first. Planetary Realm Spirit *381 Planetary Realm Spirit *420 It looks like he really is gone, Wang Teng murmured to himself. He controlled his body and floated towards the mark. Stretching out his hand, He touched it. Boom! The instant he made contact with the rune mark, glaring light shot out. The rune mark exploded and turned into numerous mysterious runes. They spun around Wang Ting's spiritual form like stars in the universe. Very soon, the runes transformed into rune chains. They gave off a golden glow and seemed exceptionally divine. Suddenly, the rune chains dashed towards Wang Ting's head and merged into his forehead. The entire process took only a few breaths. All the rune chains disappeared within a few seconds. At the same time, a complicated rune appeared in the middle of Wang Teng's forehead. He touched his forehead and felt the mark. His mind felt refreshed. He waved his hand and the golden palace Agulus used to trick him appeared in front of him. Although this was the legacy palace, the real legacy mark was the mark he had just touched. It wasn't some legacy key. Wang Teng shook his head and moved his thoughts. The door of the legacy palace opened, and he strolled in directly. It was still the same shining and magnificent palace with books piled on the bookshelves along the walls. The collection of a cosmos stage martial warrior over countless years must be incredible. With a wave of his hand, a few books flew down, floating in front of him. The Essentials of a Divine Spirit Master Controlling Your Spiritual Power, Spiritual Illusion Techniques. Ancient Language of the Great Qian Empire, Common Universal Language, Ancient God Language. Wang Ting was surprised when he scanned the titles of the books. He just chose a few books at random, but they were all extremely useful. The Essentials of a Divine Spirit Master Controlling Your Spiritual Power and Spiritual Illusion Techniques were all Divine Spirit Master's books. One after receiving the legacy mark, Wang Ting also received some memories. The man in white robe was called Nangong Yu. Besides being a Cosmos Stage martial warrior, he was also a Cosmos Stage Divine Spirit Master. Thus, it was normal for such books to appear in his legacy palace. Chapter 858, Mr. Examiner Wang Ting flipped through the books. The Essentials of a Divine Spirit Master introduced the basics of a Divine Spirit Master. There were a lot of things Wang Ting didn't know, so this book was a great help to him. The Controlling Your Spiritual Power and Spiritual Illusion Techniques talked about how to control your spiritual power and the theory of illusion. The detailed cultivation description could help Wang Ting improve his spiritual power skills greatly. His grasp of spiritual power was too rough, so he wasn't able to release its entire potential. As for the language books, Wang Ting placed them back on the shelves after briefly looking through them. This gave him a headache. Why did he need to learn so many languages? He just needed to learn the ones he needed to use. Besides, he could learn them through collecting attribute bubbles. He didn't need to spend time learning. If the Baron knew that Wang Ting laid aside and neglected all the language books he had prepared, he might jump out of his coffin. The Great Qian Empire was an empire with many years of history and a strong foundation. Ability wasn't the only thing a Baron needed to possess. He also had to have the relevant knowledge and demeanor. Languages and etiquettes were a must-learn for a Baron. A Baron without these two would become the joke of the entire empire. However, Wang Ting didn't appreciate his kindness. But one of the book's ancient god language attracted his attention. This ancient god language was talking about the language of the powerful ancient god's body that Wang Ting possessed. He didn't think that he would find the language of the ancient god's race here. After all, the ancient god's race was rare and extremely mysterious. Understanding and grasping their language was a difficult task. Once again, Wang Ting felt the power of the Great Qian Empire. Besides these books, there were many other kinds of books in the Legacy Palace. They were classified systematically into different genres, waiting for Wang Ting to pick them. He had to admit that this legacy was very useful. After all, not everything could be gained by collecting attribute bubbles. Collecting attribute bubbles relied heavily on luck too. If Wang Ting entered the universe and met something he didn't know, he could look for it in this legacy palace. This might be the greatest use of this legacy palace. After some time, Wang Ting walked out of the legacy palace. The palace disappeared. He took a deep breath and waved his hand. The labyrinth appeared before him. The spiritual labyrinth belonged to the Baron too. Its master was dead, so it landed in his hands now. He would be able to control it by practicing the special spiritual skills which were part of the legacy. He could even use it for other means. Agulus wasn't a divine spirit master. He only managed to use this labyrinth because his soul was powerful. Wang Teng looked down at the labyrinth and saw the star beast souls chasing after the martial warriors. A strange smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Of course, the martial warriors couldn't see him. Wang Ting saw the double-headed dog too. He reached out, grabbing the double-headed dog. It disappeared from the labyrinth and appeared beside him. The double-headed dog was in a daze when it first appeared. It glanced around it vigilantly. When it saw Wang Teng, it rushed over and rubbed its head against Wang Teng's leg while whining. It was sucking up to Wang Teng. It didn't need anyone to teach him how to flatter someone. "All right, you'll follow me from now on. Be obedient and you'll have your benefits." Wang Ting patted the dogs' heads and said, "I have an order for you. Listen carefully." The double-headed dog nodded its head fervently. It lifted its ears and gave an attentive look. "After you go back to the spiritual labyrinth, ask the star beast souls to continue fighting with the humans. You don't have to kill them, but you must make sure they can't stop. Chase them around the labyrinth." Wang Ting squinted as he said. The double-headed dog stared at Wang Ting as if he were a devil. It felt that its new master was vicious. The ones trapped in the labyrinth were the spirits. How tiring would it be if they continued running? If they were careless, their spirit would turn extremely weak, and they would be exhausted to death. Even if they weren't, they would enter deep sleep. Once the spirit entered deep sleep, it could remain unconscious for hundreds or thousands of years. In serious cases, they could even sleep for tens of thousands of years until the physical body disappeared. They would never be able to wake up. No matter which result it was, these talented martial warriors wouldn't be able to accept it. If they lost 10 years of their time, they could be caught up by others and their positions would be gone. The double-headed dog suddenly felt that its new master was an evil man. Indeed, it was better to be an obedient pet. The double-headed dog received the order and started playing the eagle-catch-chick game with the martial warriors in the labyrinth. The poor aliens didn't know that Wang Ting had received the legacy and was making a fool of them. After some thought, Wang Ting decided to pull Biluo out. They had worked together in the past. It would be a little unreasonable if he trapped her inside too. Fortunately, she was a beauty, so Wang Ting felt that he should treat her a little better. Biluo felt the world around her spinning. Then, she appeared before Wang Teng. After a moment of surprise, she understood what had happened. She said in a complicated tone, "It looks like you've succeeded. I was lucky." Wang Teng smiled. "It's not about luck. You're able to go through the exit and get the legacy. This means that you're stronger than all of us." Biluo was straightforward. She shook her head. However, she couldn't hide the envy in her eyes. "In that case, let's return to our bodies," Wang Teng replied. "What about them?" Biluo glanced at the labyrinth below and asked after some hesitation. "They will need to rely on their fate." Biluo. Rely on their fate? Seriously, aren't you the one who decides if they can come out? But she didn't dare to say anything. She felt fortunate to get pulled out by Wang Teng. She was worried that he would throw her back if the other martial warriors said anything to offend him. They were the ones who offended Wang Ting. It had nothing to do with her. "Sigh, I have no other intention. I just want to give them a chance to train their spirit." Wang Ting shook his head. "Do you think I believe what you've said?" Biluo glanced at him from the corner of her eyes. The two of them left the labyrinth. In the command room, Wang Ting opened his eyes and let out a long sigh. He glanced around him. Some distance away from him, there were two figures in long robes. Mr. Examiner. 1. Chapter 859. Agree. Mr. Examiner. While Wang Ting was attracted by two figures, he heard Biluo exclaiming beside him. "Examiner!" Wang Ting was stunned. Then, he realized their identity. After experiencing many sudden changes, he almost forgot that this was a trial. Hence, there would definitely be examiners. He knew that there were instructors from the Saint Star Pagoda watching over the entire planet. It must be these two. But the sudden appearance of the two examiners didn't give him much time to think. Biluo stepped forward and greeted the two examiners. She was extremely respectful. You did well. We saw your performance during this trial. Ma Dayuan nodded slightly with a look of approval. Thank you for your compliment. Biluo was elated. The words from the examiners meant that she got a position in the Saint Star Pagoda. It was confirmed. You must be Wang Ting, right? You should know about this trial too. The other examiner, Ning Honglang, glanced at Wang Ting and said sternly. Wang Ting nodded. He didn't speak. You're a martial warrior from Earth. This planet is the trial ground, so we set aside 3 slots for the locals. Your performance allows you to get one of the slots, Ning Honglang said calmly as he glanced at Wang Ting's face secretly. To his disappointment, Wang Ting didn't show any signs of excitement. His composure didn't seem like that of a young martial warrior from an underdeveloped planet. Ning Honglang and Ma Dayuan glanced at one another. Do you know the status of Saint Star Pagoda in the Olent Federation? Ma Dayuan asked. I do. It's the most famous academy in the Olent Federation. Wang Ting nodded indifferently. Biluo. What an arrogant fellow. He didn't even seem to think much of the Saint Star Pagoda. Ma Dayuan coughed awkwardly when he saw Wang Ting's nonchalant expression. He turned to Biluo and said, Biluo, please leave for a moment. We have some things to speak to Wang Ting personally. Biluo was surprised. She wondered what the two examiners wanted to say to Wang Ting. She remembered that Wang Ting was a genius that managed to get the Baron's legacy. These two examiners would probably try to rope him in with some special treatment. Biluo didn't dare to be slow. She nodded quickly and walked out of the command room. Ma Dayuan waved his hand and closed the door. Releasing the force in his body, he formed a soundproof wall around them. Then, he looked at Wang Ting. Wang Ting, you've already gotten the legacy from the Baron of the Great Qian Empire, right? The examiners exchanged glances with each other before Ning Honglang opened his mouth. Wang Ting sneaked a peek at the soundproof wall. Many thoughts flew into his mind. He nodded slowly. Wang Ting, you don't understand how dangerous the universe is. The news that you have received the legacy wasn't concealed, so it will spread soon. At that time, many beings will come and snatch the legacy from you. You're just a planetary stage martial warrior. To put it bluntly, there's an abundance of planetary stage martial warriors in the universe. Even celestial stage martial warriors like us aren't rare. You don't have the ability to protect your legacy, and it might even endanger your life, Ning Honglang said seriously. That's right. The legacy of a baron from the Great Qian Empire is extremely tempting. Even Cosmos stage martial warriors might not be able to resist the temptation. Ma Dayuan nodded and agreed. Do you have any suggestions? Wang Ting's expression changed. He appeared frightened and sought help from the examiners. The two examiners looked at each other with an undetectable smile in the corner of their eyes. It's simple. You just have to pass the legacy to us, and we'll bring it back to the Saint Star Pagoda. No one will dare to do anything to you. The Saint Star Pagoda is the biggest academy in the Olent Federation. We groom numerous formidable martial warriors, including Cosmos stage martial warriors. If an ordinary Cosmos stage martial warrior wants to snatch it, they will have to weigh their power first. You will also gain the protection of the Saint Star Pagoda. Of course, the Saint Star Pagoda will give you some compensation. We won't take your legacy for free. Wang Ting gave a look of hesitation when he heard their answer. But in his heart, he was smirking. They wanted to snatch the legacy, but they beautified their intentions with pretty words. The Saint Star Pagoda also wanted to get the Baron's legacy. Wait, this might be the examiner's personal intentions. They might just be using the Saint Star Pagoda to disguise their greed. To them, Wang Ting was just a martial warrior from an underdeveloped planet. He had no knowledge of the universe, so they could fool him however they wanted once he passed them the legacy. At that time, they could just compensate randomly, and no one would say that they were thieves. What a great plan they had. Many thoughts went through Wang Ting's head. His mind worked furiously as he tried to find a solution. It wasn't hard to tell that these two examiners were celestial stage martial warriors. That level was still a little hard for Wang Teng to deal with. If they were at the first level or second level of the celestial stage, he could have a chance at defeating them with an ultimate move like the space tornado and his spiritual power. But the third level celestial stage and above was out of his reach. If I hand over my legacy, what compensation will the Saint Star Pagoda give me? Wang Ting hesitated for a moment before asking. The two examiners looked at each other again. There was happiness in their eyes. We can open the top 3 levels of the Saint Star Pagoda library for you free for 3 years. The top 3 levels contain cultivation information and scriptures for the planetary stage to celestial stage martial warriors. You can view them whenever you want. We will also provide you with 50 billion Olant Federation coins, OFC, worth of cultivation resources. These resources are enough for you to reach the peak of the celestial stage, Ma Dayuan replied to Wang Teng immediately. Wang Teng snorted in his heart when he heard this. 3 years of access to the library and 50 billion OFC worth of cultivation resources? Did they think that he was a beggar? Even if he didn't understand the prices in the universe, he knew that these two examiners were fooling him. Putting aside the 50 billion OFC, the 3 years of free access to the library was a speck of dust when compared to the Legacy Palace. The collection of books in the Legacy Palace consisted of celestial stage and even cosmos stage scriptures. Moreover, he had inherited the wealth left behind by the Baron. This was calculated in Great Chen coins, GQC, not the currency of a low-tier civilization. The difference was vast. Wang Teng turned grim. Just as he was thinking of a way to resolve his situation, a voice sounded in his mind. Agree to them. Chapter 860. You can call me Roundball. Agree to them. Wang Teng was shocked because of the abrupt sound. Who? He shouted in his mind. I'm an intelligent life form left by my master. Since you have inherited his legacy, you're my new master now, the voice replied. Intelligent life form? Wang Teng was stunned. Yes, I'm an intelligence with a life, the voice explained calmly. Why did you ask me to agree to them? Wang Teng contemplated before asking. Agree and let them put down their guards. Let me handle the rest, the voice replied. Are you sure? Wang Ting hesitated. It felt a little unreliable to believe this intelligent life form he had never seen. You won't lose anything by trying. You don't have a better idea anyway. All right, you make sense. I'll leave it to you, Wang Ting answered the voice in his mind. His eyes shimmered. Okay. The voice sounded satisfied. Wang Ting didn't open his mouth. This conversation occurred in his mind, and it only lasted for a few seconds. Thinking that Wang Ting was in a dilemma, the two examiners didn't rush him. Wang Ting seemed to have made a decision. He gritted his teeth and nodded. All right, I'll pass the legacy to you. Please ensure my safety. Yes. No problem. Ma Dayuan and Ning Honglang couldn't control their happiness. They nodded and agreed immediately. Wang Ting took a deep breath. A rune mark slowly appeared on his forehead. Then, it solidified and floated out. Ha ha ha, very good. Ma Dayuan and Ning Honglang stopped suppressing their joy. They laughed as they flew towards the rune mark. Swoosh. At this moment, an extremely faint sound was heard. It was almost unnoticeable. 2 beams of light shot out behind Wang Teng. He was standing right in front of the corpse with 3 eyes. The beams of light came from the back of the seat he was sitting on. The 2 beams of light were as thin as needles. They shot toward Ma Dayuan and Ning Honglang's foreheads at a fast speed. They were attracted by the rune mark, so by the time they noticed the beam of light, it was too late. They were dumbstruck. Their pupils constricted, and they felt the danger of death. This needle-thin beam of light was powerful enough to kill a celestial stage martial warrior. No. Their angry cries were filled with unwillingness, but it was futile. Splurt. Splurt. The light beams pierced through their heads. Their bodies froze on the spot. Red blood seeped out from their foreheads. Then, they crashed onto the ground and lost all signs of life. Wang Ting was dumbstruck when he saw this scene. These two celestial stage warriors were killed so easily. This was unbelievable. Haha, are you shocked? The voice of the intelligent life form sounded again. It seemed a little proud of itself. Where are you? Wang Ting took a deep breath and asked. Here. A figure gradually appeared before Wang Ting. This was a strange white and fat living creature that had the height of a 4-year-old child. It had fat arms and legs, and its head was round like a ball. 2 pitch-black eyes were etched on the head. There were also 2 curly tentacles on the top of its head. It wasn't wearing any clothes, and it was snow-white. It was quite cute and strange. You can call me Round Ball. The intelligent life form floated in front of Wang Ting and chuckled. Round Ball? Wang Ting's expression turned weird. He asked curiously, who gave you that name? Master Nangong gave it to me. I think it's really nice. Don't you think so? The intelligent life form tilted its head and asked Wang Ting. As long as you like it. In his heart, Wang Ting was complaining about Nangong Yu's naming ability. Round Ball? Why don't you call it round and fat instead? But he had no right to complain about others. His naming ability wasn't good either. He called a black crow Little White. No one else would do that. Both of them had the same naming ability. Well, they did have some similarities. They are dead. Wang Ting stared at the corpses of the 2 celestial stage martial warriors on the ground. He had used his eyes of essence to confirm that their vitality and souls were gone, but he still asked uncontrollably. Yes. Round Ball nodded calmly. What were the 2 beams of light? Wang Ting asked as he controlled the astonishment in his heart. It's a spiritual attack left by Master Nangong. It's stored using a special technique, waiting to be activated at the right time. He had predicted this situation, Round Ball said proudly. But as it spoke, it started to feel sad. Are you all right? Wang Ting was surprised. How could an intelligent being have human emotions? It's all right. Thinking about it, Master Nangong has been dead for 1,000,000 years. I have accepted this truth. Round Ball shook its head and said. It looked at Wang Ting's expression and asked, your expression is weird. Yes, a little. Do you have human emotions? Wang Ting asked carefully. Although I'm an intelligence, we have different levels too. The logic programs on your planet are known as intelligence too, but they are too low level. In the universe, we only label something as an intelligence if it can think like a human. I might be an intelligence, but I have risen above that level and am called an intelligent life form. I'm a life form just like you humans. I have emotions and can cultivate too, Round Ball explained. Amazing. Wang Ting exclaimed. The universe is vast. Anything can happen. Round Ball said proudly, intelligent life forms like me are rare. Even those eternal stage martial warriors might not possess intelligent life forms like me. Wang Ting took a deep breath. He felt extremely lucky. This intelligent life form sounded impressive. Even eternal stage martial warriors might not have one. What was the eternal stage? After the cosmos stage, there was the heaven stage, the universe stage, and then the eternal stage. Cosmos stage martial warriors could live for 3,000,000 years, heaven stage martial warriors could live for 10,000,000 years, and universe stage martial warriors could live for 100,000,000 years. But they would still die. Even though a universe stage martial warrior had a lifespan of 100,000,000 years, they would slowly decay and reach their death as time progressed. One could only escape the barriers of death by reaching the eternal stage. The eternal stage was also known as the God of Eternity. The martial warriors here were like real immortals. Their lives never ended and they never died. Thus, intelligent life forms were indeed rare since even they might not have them. It looked like Nangong Yu left many good things for him. It was worth the dangers of inheriting the legacy. Chapter 861, QYE-63 Spacecraft. In the command room, Wang Ting and Round Ball chatted for a while before looking at the corpses of the 2 Saint Star Pagoda instructors. As they died, 10 attribute bubbles emerged from their bodies. Wang Ting's eyes flashed, and he picked them up straight away. Constellation Force, Earth, *21500 Emperor Level Earth Talent *260 Planetary Realm Spirit *850 Planetary Realm Enlightenment *885 Dark Origin *100 Constellation Force, Fire, *25600 Emperor Level Fire Talent *320 Planetary Realm Spirit *1200 Planetary Realm Enlightenment *1080 Sun Blaze *220 Wang Teng was overjoyed when the attribute bubbles merged into his body and mind. There were more than 20,000 points of Constellation Earth Force and Constellation Fire Force. In an instant, the pure and abundant Constellation Force circulated in his body, merging into the Constellation Force in the Sea of Nihility. Boom! The Sea of Nihility shook as his Fire and Earth Force underwent a transformation, and another constellation was gradually formed. It slowly emerged like it was undergoing cell division. In the end, 2 more constellations appeared in the Sea of Nihility, 1 Fire constellation and 1 Earth constellation. Now, there were 7 constellations. Planetary Stage Level 2. Moreover, the Fire and Earth Force had reached Level 2 of the planetary stage. Constellation Fire Force, 14500 20,000, Planetary Stage 2nd Level. Constellation Earth Force, 13600 20,000, Planetary Stage 2nd Level. It wasn't just that. With the changes, the 2 forces were only a few thousand points away from the next level. Wang Teng took a deep breath and continued looking at the other changes to his attributes. This time, he managed to obtain 2050 Planetary Realm Spirit and 1965 Planetary Realm Enlightenment attribute points, greatly enhancing his spirit and enlightenment. Previously, when he was in the spiritual labyrinth, he had improved his spirit. Now, he was very close to hitting the celestial realm. Enlightenment, 8715 10,000, Planetary Realm, Spirit, 9600 10,000, Planetary Realm. Wang Teng couldn't believe himself when he saw the changes. He had just reached the planetary realm not too long ago and was already this close to the celestial realm. Celestial realm spirit. Only Cosmos stage martial warriors could ever reach that stage, and Wang Teng was only a few hundred attribute points away. However, he knew that such an opportunity was rare to come by. A spiritual labyrinth that a Cosmos stage martial warrior left behind and the deaths of 2 celestial stage martial warriors were not common encounters. Wang Teng quickly calmed himself down. Otherwise, he might not have another chance to do so. Next, he looked at the 2 scriptures. Celestial Stage Middle Rank Scripture, Dark Origin. Celestial Stage Advanced Rank Scripture, Sun Blaze. Both were Celestial Stage scriptures. At this time, a memory formed in his mind and enlightened Wang Teng. This was an unexpected surprise. Although Nangong Yu had left behind many celestial stage scriptures, no one would ignore these advanced rank scriptures. Now, Wang Teng knew that in the universe, inheritance was extremely important. Most people couldn't afford celestial stage scriptures, which meant that their cultivation speed would be very slow. Even if Wang Teng didn't use the scriptures and sold them, he would be able to make a huge windfall. What he didn't know was that the 2 scriptures were actually secrets from the Saint Star Pagoda. Only celestial stage instructors and some disciples would be eligible to obtain them. Moreover, once they got them, they were not allowed to share them with other people. Otherwise, they would be disciplined severely by the Saint Star Pagoda. They would be stripped of their abilities and cultivation or even killed. However, Wang Teng didn't care about any of these. He already had a feud with the Saint Star Pagoda. This wouldn't matter much. Wang Teng only spent a short time picking up the attribute bubbles. He then looked at the 2 corpses and sighed. 2 celestial stage martial warriors were lying there motionless. It was heartbreaking. However, Wang Teng didn't sympathize with them. If he didn't do that, things wouldn't have gone so smoothly. Once their talk went sideways, they would have killed him immediately and seized the inheritance. Wang Teng had always assumed the worst of people. He was not a saint and was even a little selfish. He was just an ordinary person. If someone crossed the line, he wouldn't mind being ruthless. If they were greedy, they shouldn't blame him for being ruthless. Since the martial arts era, martial warriors had been fighting for resources in order to improve their abilities. They were not as friendly as they appeared to be. Wang Teng had seen many of these things and was not surprised. However, he was a bit conflicted on how to handle this situation now. 2 celestial stage martial warriors were now dead on Earth, and they were even from the Saint Star Pagoda. They were not just some ordinary folks that no one cared about. Wang Teng was certain that their deaths would attract other warriors from the Saint Star Pagoda. Are you worried that the Saint Star Pagoda will avenge them? Round Ball seemed to know what he was thinking and probed. Do you have any ideas? Asked Wang Teng. If you go to the Great Qian Empire and successfully inherit the title of Baron, Saint Star Pagoda wouldn't be able to do anything about it even if 2 of their celestial stage martial warriors were killed, Round Ball suggested. You might as well have kept quiet. Wang Teng rolled his eyes. If you go to the Great Qian Empire as the inheritor of Nangong, at the very least, they won't be able to do anything to you on the surface. They can only resort to assassinations, traps, or shady things like that. Round Ball stroked its bare chin. Wang Teng was speechless. You make it sound so easy. I almost thought that this was a play. Hihi, it depends on whether you are afraid, Round Ball replied. Why do I feel that you really want me to go back to Great Qian Empire to inherit the title? Wang Teng was curious. Cough, that's not it. I'm just giving you suggestions. The decision is yours to make, Round Ball said again like it had nothing to do with it. Let me think about it again. Wang Teng shook his head. Yes. Round Ball nodded and didn't say anything else. Oh right, how long will it take for me to go to the Great Qian Empire? Wang Teng suddenly thought of something and asked. If we use the QYE-63 spacecraft that was left behind, we can reach the capital planet of Great Qian Empire in 36 days. A light flashed across Round Ball's eyes. QYE-63 spacecraft? We're already in the QYE-63 spacecraft. Chapter 862. Are you telling me that this entire historical site is the QYE-63 spacecraft? Wang Teng was astounded. No, only the center part is the spacecraft. Round Ball shook its head. Our spacecraft has been on Earth for many years. To ensure that it has enough energy supply, I sent it into hibernation. I also asked the previous human civilization on this planet to build a civilization around it to provide the spacecraft with endless energy so that it can set sail again one day. The entire historical site is an energy absorption device. Wang Teng was in awe. He couldn't speak for some time. The previous human civilization, and this entire historical site was an energy absorption device. Did the spacecraft need such a frightening amount of energy? Don't underestimate the energy needed to travel in the universe. Even though I've let the spacecraft enter hibernation mode, the energy it absorbed is only enough for you to fly to the Great Qian Galaxy. It might break down if any accidents happen along the way, Round Ball said. Seriously? That's troublesome. Wang Teng was speechless. What do you think? This QYE-63 spacecraft has been on the Earth for 1,000,000 years. You can still use it because I maintain it well and had foresight. If I didn't save up enough energy for this spacecraft, you won't be able to do anything with it. Other intelligences aren't as smart as me, Round Ball said proudly with its hands on its hips as it glared at Wang Teng. All right, you're the smartest. I have to thank you for ensuring that the spacecraft can still be used, Wang Teng consoled it hurriedly. Round Ball was an intelligent life form with incredible abilities and high intelligence, but it had the temper of a kid. This is better. Round Ball snorted. Wait, the alien candidates have their own spacecraft too. There are many spacecraft here now. They should have reserve energy, right? Wang Teng suddenly remembered the alien spacecraft. Yes, quick, bring me there instantly. Round Ball's eyes lit up. It said excitedly, the QYE-63 has many spoiled parts. We can use the materials on the other spacecraft to repair it, making the journey safer. The QYE-63 spacecraft is damaged. Why didn't you say that earlier? Wang Teng's face turned black. For some reason, he felt that Round Ball wasn't reliable. What if an accident happened when he was traveling in the universe? He wouldn't even have a place to cry. This fellow was making things difficult for him. Haha, I didn't have the time to mention it. Round Ball touched its round head and said in embarrassment. You. Wang Ting almost vomited blood out of frustration. He said angrily, why don't we use the other alien spacecraft? Why must we repair this QYE-63? It's a million-year-old antique. I feel scared to travel in it. What do you know? Round Ball shouted, I dare to promise that none of the alien candidate spacecraft can be compared to this one. Why is that so? Wang Ting asked curiously. He had to admit that Round Ball knew more than him. Round Ball thought for a moment before showing off the spacecraft. In the universe, based on the level of importance to a formidable martial warrior, we have scriptures, battle techniques, weapons, battle armors, and finally universe spacecraft. I'll share the first four with you when we see them. Let's talk about spacecraft first. It might be the last on the list, but it's extremely important since it can be listed along with the first four items. The universe is vast. If you want to travel across it, you need the help of a universe spacecraft. Even universe stage or eternal stage martial warriors need it. If not, you will need to spend a few hundred years traveling. No one is willing to waste this time. Wang Ting nodded as he listened. Round Ball continued, now, we can talk about the different classes of spacecraft. The higher the class, the faster the speed. A good spacecraft might need 10 days to travel tens of light years, but an ordinary spacecraft would need tens of years to do that. High-quality materials and high-level craftsmanship are required to build a high-class spacecraft. This QYE-63 is an extremely high-class universe spacecraft in many galaxies. Only a small portion of Cosmos stage martial warriors or people with powerful backgrounds can afford it. Coincidentally, Master Nangong has both the ability and the background. The material used to make this spacecraft is a rare or called starsand metal. A Cosmos stage martial warrior will need to use much force if he wants to damage the body of this spacecraft. Visit Ria Del Me for extra chapters. This ore is also extremely expensive. A ton of it cost 3,000 GQC. An entire QYE-63 weighs 2.56 million tons. Just the ore will cost more than 7.68 billion GQC. That's GQC, not some coins of low-tier civilizations like the Olent Federation. Based on the official exchange rate, the currency of a high-level civilization is 1,000 times that of a middle-tier civilization. A middle-tier civilization's currency is 1,000 times more than that of a low-tier civilization. Think about it. How much does this QYE-63 cost? This is a luxury product. Round Ball stared at Wang Ting intently after it finished speaking. It was anticipating his astounded reaction after he heard the astronomical figure. After all, he came from an underdeveloped planet. It wasn't looking down on Wang Ting. It just wanted to tease him. However, Wang Ting remained composed. Are you telling me that this spacecraft is expensive? What else? Round Ball widened its eyes in surprise when it saw his reaction. That's all. Round Ball jumped up. Shouldn't you give a reaction after knowing how amazing this spacecraft is? What reaction do you want from me? Wang Ting felt speechless. Astonishment, excitement. Don't you feel anything after hearing that you own such an impressive spacecraft? Round Ball went mad. Well, a little. Wang Ting nodded indifferently. A little. Round Ball was disappointed. It felt like a deflated balloon as it spoke dejectedly. I feel no sense of achievement at all. Wang Ting chuckled in his heart. Honestly, he was shocked. However, he didn't want to see Round Ball gloating, so he maintained a calm expression on his face. All right, since you need to repair the spacecraft, let's quickly bring the other spacecraft back and dismantle them. We'll use their parts to fix this QYE-63. Wang Ting waved his hand and made the decision. That sounds good. Round Ball gathered his thoughts and nodded in satisfaction. Wang Ting touched his chin. He kept the two corpses on the ground and executed the darkness clone technique. 2 balls of black light flew out from his body and gradually transformed into 2 figures. They looked exactly like the 2 instructors from the Saint Star Pagoda. F***K, you possess a clone technique? Even Master Nangong didn't have it. Round Ball was thunderstruck. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 863. Wang Ting smiled at Round Ball's astonishment. He didn't explain himself. This fellow was so proud and arrogant right from the start. If he didn't show it his power, it might think that he was a weakling. Wang Ting looked at Round Ball and asked, "Will you stay on the spacecraft or come with me?" "I'll come with you, of course. I need to see what parts the spacecraft have. Do you think you can do it without me?" Round Ball found his confidence again and said proudly. Round Ball flipped its hand. A crystal-clear white diamond-shaped gem appeared on its palm. "This is a life energy stone. It's extremely rare. It can allow me to stay in it for a long time. I'll be able to leave with you when you bring it along," Round Ball explained. Life energy stone. Wang Ting was surprised. He felt that the universe was full of surprises. Even an amazing stone like this existed. "Oh right, I think this crystal skull can store souls too." Wang Ting took out the crystal skull in his space. "Yes, I made this specially and released it to the outside world to grab people's attention. I mixed some life energy stone powder in it, so it can store souls temporarily. However, the soul will dissipate after some time." Round Ball glanced at the crystal skull in Wang Ting's hand and replied nonchalantly. "What about the map inside?" Wang Ting asked. "I drew it casually. It's the map showing the way to the Great Qian Empire." Round Ball sniggered. Wang Ting suddenly felt as if he was tricked. F***K, he thought that it was a treasure map, but in the end, it was just a map showing the way to the Great Qian Empire. You can collect all the crystal skulls and sell them. They should be able to fetch a good price. They have life energy stone powder mixed in them, so they possess some traits of the life energy stone. For instance, they can increase low-rank spiritual power to a certain extent. "Of course, they are useless to you," Round Ball said. Wang Ting immediately looked at the alien candidates sitting around them. He remembered that the crystal skulls were on them. Taking off their space items, he turned his spiritual power into spiritual thorns and destroyed the spiritual mark inside. At the same time, the alien candidates in the labyrinth suffered serious injuries. All their expressions changed. "Who touched my space ring?" Argus' expression turned ugly. He was infuriated. The other three alien candidates' faces were as black as charcoal too. They were being chased by the star beast souls around the labyrinth. After escaping here and there, they were already very weak. This huge stimulation almost crumbled their spirits. "If this continues, our soul will enter hibernation," Argus said grimly. It must be Wang Ting. He must have inherited the legacy and gained control of the labyrinth. "We're all stuck inside," Pullin said hurriedly. His gaze flickered. "Damn it, what an evil fellow," Kathu cursed. Anger shot out of his eyes. Argus and Pullin felt exasperated. They were the talents from the Olent Federation. They still remembered how much they looked down on Wang Ting in the past. Yet now, Wang Ting had inherited the legacy of the Baron from the Great Qian Empire while they were being chased around like disowned dogs. This was a huge stimulation to them. Their hearts were burning with envy. Mind you, this was the legacy of a Baron from a high-tier civilization. To think that Earthling got it. They couldn't wait to replace him. "What do we do now?" Another martial warrior broke the silence and asked them with a pale face. Along with a bellow was heard, loud explosions occurred behind them. The star beast souls had caught up. They seemed to be walking their pets. They would run for a moment and rest for some time. They weren't really chasing after the martial warriors. "Oh my, what else can we do?" "Run." Kath's expression changed, and he dashed forward. The others could only follow after him and start running wildly. In the real world, Wang Ting kept the alien candidate space items without any hesitation. There were many good items inside. He kept them happily. He didn't kill them because they had fought the dark apparitions with him. Sigh, he couldn't help it. He was too kind. Visit Ria.me for extra chapters. But Wang Ting wasn't as kind toward the dark apparitions. He turned around and saw the unconscious devil lords. A cold glint flashed past his eyes. This was a great opportunity. It would be a pity if he didn't kill them. Spiritual power surged out of Wang Teng's forehead. A few flying daggers flew out of his space ring and turned into sharp beams of light. They slit across the throats of the devil lords. With the help of the planetary realm spiritual power, the flying daggers shot across the air at the speed of lightning and chopped off the heads of the devil lords. However, the flying daggers cracked and shattered too. They turned into scrap. TSK, your control is too rough. You should practice the spiritual power scriptures Master Nangong left behind. Round Ball shook his head and said, also your weapon is lousy. You were at the planetary disciple stage in the past, so you can still use them. However, your opponents are all at the planetary stage and above now. Their physical body is extremely strong, so normal weapons can't injure them. You should use weapons used by planetary realm divine spirit masters. I remember that Master Nangong left behind some weapons. You can take a look. Where are they? Wang Teng asked. His eyes lit up. I didn't pass your Master Nangong's space bracelet. Round Ball asked in a strange tone. When did you give it to me? Wang Teng felt speechless. Oh, I forgot. Round Ball patted its head and took out a bracelet, throwing it at Wang Teng. Some of the items Master used in the past are inside. Take a look when you're free. Wang Teng was elated. He nodded and kept the bracelet. This was a space item of a Cosmos Stage martial warrior. There must be many good things inside. But this wasn't a good time to inspect it. Wang Teng stared at the corpses of the devil lords and pondered for some time. He was still a little worried, so he took out his emerald glazed flame and burned the corpses into ashes. Is this a divine fire? Round Ball widened his eyes in surprise when he saw the emerald flame. He felt more astounded than when he saw Wang Teng's cloning technique. You know many things, Wang Teng said. Cloning technique, divine fire. You have many good things. Are you the son of a secret boss? Round Ball twirled around Wang Teng and sized him up carefully with a strange gaze. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 864, Dark Force, Planetary Stage. Wang Teng almost spat in Round Ball's face. What did it mean by the son of some hidden boss? Its imagination was running a little too wild. If he was the son of some boss, he wouldn't need to work so hard to collect attributes to raise his ability. Seriously. Wang Teng glared at Round Ball. Come on, don't be angry. I'm just shocked that a native of this underdeveloped planet possesses so many good things. Even Cosmos Stage martial warriors will be tempted by these things. You can't blame me for being surprised. Round Ball chuckled. It knew that Wang Teng didn't have a powerful background, but it just wanted to tease him because it was caught off guard. Wang Teng was too lazy to explain. Maintaining a level of secrecy would ensure that this little fellow wouldn't look down on him. He was sure that there would be more shocking moments for Round Ball in the future. Round Ball would never think that he was a bug. The devil lords turned into ashes as they got burned by the flames. Attribute bubbles floated down. Wang Teng suddenly felt thankful toward the fake baron. If he hadn't taken care of these devil lords, he wouldn't be able to kill them so easily. What a kind man. After a moment of gratefulness, Wang Teng picked up the attribute bubbles around him. Constellation Force, Dark, * 3000 Imperial Realm Spirit * 650 Emperor Level Dark Talent * 350 Devil Transformation * 30 Constellation Force, Dark, * 2800 Imperial Realm Spirit * 620 Emperor Level Dark Talent * 330 Devil Transformation * 25 There were 3 Devil Lords, so they dropped a sizable amount of attribute bubbles after they died. Wang Teng felt as if he was struck with a great fortune. He accumulated more than 20,000 points of Constellation Dark Force. They turned into a stream of pure Constellation Dark Force and gathered in his body. Boom! The stream of constellation dark force surged through Wang Ting's limbs and meridians, giving off a buzzing sound. The reserve of force was huge, so the force nucleus in his body was unable to contain it anymore. The constellation dark force in his body had exceeded the limit of the 13-star general stage. It overflowed. All the constellation dark force spurted out of the force nucleus and spun around Wang Ting's body violently. Wang Ting's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect this to happen. He immediately added blank attributes to the dark devil scripture he had received in the past. This dark scripture came from a devil lord. Wang Ting planned to practice it properly after this battle, but accidents happened without any warning. He had no choice but to use the blank attributes to raise his Dark Devil Scripture first. Dark Devil Scripture, 10,000, perfected. He spent more than 30,000 blank attributes before raising this scripture from the well-versed to the perfected stage. Fortunately, he had gained many blank attributes during this battle, or he wouldn't know what to do. He was also lucky that a planetary stage dark scripture had dropped from a devil lord. After all, he couldn't make bricks without straws. Wang Ting immediately activated the Dark Devil Scripture after it reached the perfected stage. The perfected stage Dark Devil Scripture started working furiously. The restless constellation dark force in his body calmed down. The normal dark force in his body was being converted into constellation force. This was an unexpected gain. If he went by the book and cultivated step by step, he would need a long time to convert the normal dark force into constellation dark force. But the vast amount of constellation dark force scattered the normal dark force and merged it into the constellation dark force. The normal dark force was diluted. It was like a small stream merging into a roaring river. It became part of the river. The conversion speed was increased by more than 10 times. Oh my God! Just when Wang Ting was converting the dark force in his body, Round Ball noticed the fluctuation. It stared at Wang Ting in astonishment. What a strange fluctuation. It seems to be suppressed. What is it? Round Ball muttered to himself curiously. He seems to be on the verge of a breakthrough. This fellow has many secrets. Round Ball stroked its chin and squinted slightly. It was extremely interested. Then, it waved its hand and created a layer of spiritual shield around them. It didn't tell Wang Ting that it was a divine spirit master too. It was able to use its spiritual kinesis. But its situation was different from a human divine spirit master. The person who created it probably never imagined that it could grow to such a stage. It formed the shield to prevent outsiders from interrupting Wang Ting. Wang Ting was its master now. They were on the same boat, so it didn't want anything bad to happen to him. Boom! Wang Ting was at a crucial moment. Boundless constellation dark force formed a black bridge and crossed over the Sea of Nihility. The remaining dark force merged into the Sea of Nihility continuously. The silent Sea of Nihility started churning until all the constellation dark force sunk into the bottom and got compressed and hammered. Thud, thud, thud. Dull thuds rang continuously like the palpitations of the heart. It was hard to tell how much time had passed. The sound suddenly disappeared and the surface of the sea started to toss and turn. A pure black star rose gradually, seemingly formed by numerous black crystals. It was magnificent. Dark Force, first level planetary stage. His dark force finally reached the planetary stage. Wang Ting opened his eyes slowly. His gaze was profound. He let out a long sigh. Breakthrough? A voice sounded beside him. Wang Ting was stunned. He turned hurriedly and stared at Round Ball. Don't look at me like that. It's just a breakthrough. You're just an ordinary talent. I've seen someone advancing to another stage while eating. Yours is nothing, Round Ball said nonchalantly. Wang Ting, this little thing was so conceited. Just a breakthrough? Do you think it's something as simple as eating and sleeping? It even said that his talent was ordinary. Wang Ting didn't believe that there were many such talents in the universe. Most of the people were probably normal talents. He finally realized that Round Ball liked to boast. Wang Ting rolled his eyes. He didn't want to argue with Round Ball. He looked at his attributes panel and saw that his dark force had indeed reached the planetary stage. He was elated. He achieved a breakthrough after killing these devil lords. How simple. If Round Ball knew how he achieved his breakthrough, it wouldn't have said those words. How could a genius be compared to a bug? What a joke. Chapter 865. Your thinking is too simple. After ascertaining that his condition had stabilized, Wang Teng took a look at the other attribute bubbles. 2250 points of Imperial Realm Spirit. This could be converted to 225 points of Planetary Realm Spirit. Wang Teng's spirit attribute increased a little again. It was getting close to the upper limit. Spirit, 9825 10,000, Planetary Realm, damn it, system, are you doing this on purpose? Why can't you push it up a little more? It's almost touching the breakthrough point. Wang Teng screamed in his heart. He almost went mad when he saw the small gap. After complaining for a few seconds, he sighed helplessly and gave up the idea of using his blank attributes to fill up the tiny gap left. Blank attributes were extremely important. The implications might be unthinkable if he didn't have enough blank attributes to raise his Dark Devil scripture to the perfected stage just now. Thus, he didn't want to touch his blank attributes if he didn't need to. He would only use them at crucial moments. He glanced at his attributes panel. Blank attribute, 87655. After a few rounds of usage, he only had 87,655 blank attributes left. It wasn't a small number, but Wang Teng still felt insecure. He was getting stronger and stronger. This number of blank attributes wasn't even enough for him to push a scripture to the perfected stage. This was too difficult. Wang Teng was keenly aware of how poor and helpless he was. This was an evil world. He shifted his gaze away and placed it on his talents. 1680 points of Emperor-level Dark Talent were added this time. Emperor-level Dark Talent, 1940 10,000. Wang Teng nodded in satisfaction. A matured talent must be an all-rounder. His Dark Talent mustn't lag behind the others. The last attribute bubble he received was Devil Transformation. There were 125 points of it. With the previous 35 points, it crossed the foundation stage and reached the well-versed stage. Devil Transformation, 5300, well-versed. Wang Teng didn't know what to think about this attribute. It rose to the well-versed stage without much effort, but he didn't want to use it at all. The Devil Lord's devil transformations were all hideous. He couldn't accept it. He was a handsome young man. Devil transformation wasn't suitable for him. Wang Teng shook his head and threw the devil transformation to the back of his mind. It's time to leave. He glanced at the two clones of the instructors and thought for a moment before giving them his order. The two clones understood Wang Teng's intention instantly. They walked out of the command room and left right before Biluo. Fortunately, the two instructors from St. Star Pagoda were smart enough to build a soundproof wall. She didn't know what happened inside. She would never imagine that the two instructors had died silently. Afterward, Wang Teng walked out of the command room while Round Ball hid in the life energy stone. What did the two instructors talk to you about? Biluo leaned forward and asked softly. Nothing. They promised me various benefits like 3 years of access to the library and 50 billion OFC worth of cultivation resources. I said that I don't want to go, but they insisted and persuaded me for a long time. Wang Teng spouted nonsense. 3 years of access to the library? 50 billion OFC worth of cultivation resources? Oh my God! Biluo's eyes turned red. She looked at Wang Teng as if he was a piece of treasure. Her eyes were shimmering as she said, Wang Teng, we're friends, right? We worked together before, so do remember me after we get into the St. Star Pagoda. She was blinded by the benefits that Wang Teng told her and automatically disregarded the brutal truth that he had rejected St. Star Pagoda's offer. Wang Teng stared at her strangely. Beautiful lady, your image changed suddenly. You were a cold and distant beauty a moment ago. How did you become greedy and funny in the next moment? Indeed, no beauties could reject the money. I'm such an amiable and handsome young man. Even a pretty lady like her can't reject me. Wang Ting touched his chin and thought to himself happily. Wait, did you say that you rejected the instructor's offer? Biluo suddenly regained her senses and widened her eyes in surprise. Yes, you're right. Wang Ting nodded indifferently. Are you kidding me? Biluo was in disbelief. How can you reject such a good offer? You must be lying. You agreed, right? She went berserk. Your thinking is too simple. Wang Ting looked at her with a meaningful gaze. Biluo almost choked on her own breath. She pointed at herself and asked, My thinking is too simple? Yes, I'm talking about you. Wang Ting started walking away. Biluo was stunned for a moment. Then, she caught up with him hurriedly and asked, Are you going to the Great Qian Empire? What do you think? Wang Ting chuckled. He didn't explain it to her. Biluo's expression turned complicated. She felt inferior. Wang Ting must have rejected Saint Star Pagoda's offer because he got a better choice. Was there a need to guess? He must be heading to the Great Qian Empire. That was a high-tier civilization many times more powerful than the Olent Federation. Within a few seconds, Wang Ting had climbed to a height where she needed to look up at him. A few moments ago, she was the one with a higher status. Now, their positions swapped, and he was above her. Things changed over time. She thought that the Baron's legacy consisted of an identity for Wang Ting in the Great Qian Empire so that he could study in an academy there. The thought that Wang Ting would become a Baron of the Great Qian Empire never crossed her mind. The two of them walked out of the historical site. Due to Round Ball's presence, they left the building successfully without suffering any attacks. On the outskirts of the central continent, the battlecraft from the various nations were still present. All the important figures were waiting impatiently. They yearned to explore the relics below, but no one dared to. They were getting grumpy. When Wang Ting and Biluo walked out, everyone saw them. Boom! At this moment, the huge building in the middle of the historical site sunk below the ground gradually. The ground closed up and the building disappeared. An empty patch of land was left in the center. This building was the shell of the QYE-63 spacecraft. Round Ball kept it using a special method after it sunk down. No one knew where the spacecraft went. However, the other historical buildings weren't connected to the spacecraft, so they remained behind. Based on what Round Ball said, there was nothing especially worthy here. Wang Ting shouldn't waste his time exploring this place. Wang Ting contacted the leader of martial arts and asked them to arrange for manpower to explore the historical site. Chapter 866. Let's put an end to them once and for all. Country Shia's battlecraft landed nearby. The leader of martial arts and the other martial warriors came out to welcome Wang Ting. The other countries noticed Country Shia's movement. After some hesitation, they ordered their battlecraft to land too. Wang Ting, the leader of martial arts, came forward. You're here. Wang Ting nodded. Why are there only two of you? Where are the others? The leader of martial arts pondered before asking. They can't come out, Wang Ting replied lightheartedly. Can't come out. They were shocked and elated. The important figures from the other nations glanced at one another in astonishment when they heard his reply. The Devil Lords, someone asked agitatedly. Not a speck of them is left, Wang Ting said indifferently. His gaze turned sharp. Gasp. Everyone was dumbfounded. All the important figures of the various countries stared at Wang Ting in awe and disbelief. He came out, yet the alien candidates and the dark apparitions didn't. This meant something. They had to believe it even if it seemed impossible. Also, the attitude of the only alien candidate who came out with him was worth contemplating. She didn't stand beside Wang Ting. Instead, she stood half a step behind him. Oh right, this was the only female alien candidate, right? She was beautiful too. All the leaders seemed to realize the crux of the problem. Their ambiguous gazes went back and forth between Wang Ting and Biluo. However, they didn't dare to stare too long. They were planetary stage martial warriors, so they couldn't afford to offend them. They thought that they found something Wang Ting was interested in and decided to flatter him so as to build a closer relationship with him. After the invasion of the dark apparitions, he had undeniably become the most powerful martial warrior on Earth. Their policy decisions changed when it came to how they should treat Wang Ting and country Xia. What about those dark apparitions? Someone looked up at the pitch-black sky and finally asked the question everyone had in mind. This was the head of state of Country Star. He was a middle-aged man around 50 years old. Biluo looked up and frowned slightly. These dark apparitions won't pose any threat. However, there are too many of them, so it will be hard to finish them off quickly. It will be devastating if they land on the planet. She was speaking using her consciousness, so Earthlings couldn't understand. But Wang Ting could. He nodded, and a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. Let's put an end to them once and for all. To him, these dark apparitions didn't just represent a disaster. There were countless attribute bubbles too. He would never let them go. Without the Devil Lords, the dark apparitions were like an army without a general. It wouldn't be hard for Wang Ting to take care of them. What are you planning to do? Biluo asked. Wang Ting didn't reply to her. His body rose into the air slowly. His black hair danced even when there wasn't any wind. An invisible and strange fluctuation spread out from his body, sweeping through the sky above the central continent like circles of airwaves. Space fluctuation. Biluo exclaimed in shock. She never expected Wang Ting to possess space talent. He had never used his space talent when they were fighting. This fellow concealed himself well. Biluo felt bitter. She finally understood that they, the talents from the Olant Federation, were nothing in front of Wang Ting. To think that they felt superior to him in the past. In reality, Wang Ting's talent was much higher than theirs. At the same time, Roundball, who was inside the life energy stone, exclaimed, Wang Ting, you possess space talent. This is an extremely rare talent in the universe. Only 1 in 100 million talents will be born with it, yet you have it. Oh my god, I'm going crazy. How is this possible? Is this really an underdeveloped planet that just welcomed the martial arts era? Why are you here? Round Ball started to question its life. Wang Ting gave it too many surprises. It never thought that he had such a rare talent. At first, it felt grateful if Wang Ting could become a Cosmostage martial warrior like Nangong Yu. Now, it believed that his accomplishments would be even higher. He could advance to the Heaven stage or the Universe stage. It was possible. What's Wang Ting doing? Is he going to destroy the dark apparitions? What will he do? The commander from the White Eagle Nation and the other leaders of the various countries raised their heads and stared at Wang Ting. They had witnessed how powerful he was, but they still wondered if he could get rid of the numerous dark apparitions. Many powerful martial warriors felt the sudden space fluctuation. They were dumbstruck. They didn't know what Wang Ting's move was. Some people suddenly remembered the space tornado technique Wang Ting used during Donghai's Sea Beasts riot. Is he going to use that move? The leader of martial arts wondered in disbelief. Quick, this is the last battle. We must send the images back to Country Xia and let everyone see the battle. He suddenly remembered the live broadcast and gave his order immediately. The other leaders glanced at each other silently and chose to follow Country Xia. Everyone was panicking because of this calamity. Earth needed a hero. Their battle with the dark apparitions some time ago was broadcasted to the rest of the world. Wang Ting's performance was extremely eye-catching. He had killed several Devil Lords, and everyone was heartened. If they saw him annihilating all the dark apparitions alone, it would definitely ignite everyone's desire and belief to live. In an instant, all the cameras in the battlecraft turned to Wang Ting and the endless dark clouds in the sky. This image was displayed to the rest of the world through the internet. Many 13-star general stage dark apparitions lowered their heads and looked down at Wang Ting from the clouds. He appeared exceptionally small amid the huge patch of dark clouds like an ant. However, none of these 13-star general stage dark apparitions dared to underestimate him. They couldn't forget the moment when Wang Ting turned into a rock giant and beat up the Devil Lords. He was merciless and powerful. They could only see his face, but they already felt fearful. What's he doing? Why didn't the Lords come out? Why are there only 2 humans? What happened inside? Have all the lords died? That's impossible. The 13-star general stage dark apparitions frowned. They glared at Wang Ting in anger and astonishment. Boom! Suddenly, the air trembled violently. A loud buzzing sound resounded in the sky. Visible airwaves spread out continuously. Chapter 867, The Final Storm. Central Continent. At this moment, the continent was the focus of everyone's attention. The continent was scarred and devastated. There were sword marks everywhere and ravines were carved on the ground. An ancient ruin appeared in the ravines. It proved that a terrifying war had happened there. And right above the mainland, a dark cloud shrouded and obscured the sky as if the end of the world was imminent. People trembled in fear. This meant that the war was not over yet. However, a figure stood there in the air just under the dark cloud. Just one person was facing the sky that was covered by dark apparitions. The scene was shown all over the world and was witnessed by the eyes of ordinary people. Everyone knew who Wang Ting was. He had killed several devil lords alone in the previous battle, inspiring everyone. Many youths regarded him as their idol, and even more people viewed him as a hero of the humans. Now, Wang Ting was standing under the dark cloud and facing the dark apparitions alone. As they were seeing it via screens, no one knew what he was going to do. Country Xia. Grandpa Wang, Wang Shangua, and other members of the Wang family were all clustered around the screen. They were all worried and anxious as they looked at the figure. Although Wang Ting had already killed multiple devil lords, he was facing so many dark apparitions alone now. Was he really going to make it? The dark apparitions were clustered so densely that it made people's scalp tingle just by looking at them, let alone dealing with them. Li Zumei's whole body was tense as she clutched Wang Shengguo's arm tightly. Her face was pale, but she didn't make a sound. She knew that her son was saving the planet and that he was a hero. She couldn't say anything. She could only hope that he would return safely. Wang Shenggua patted Li Zumei's hand and consoled her. Although he was worried as well, he had to stay strong as a man to support his wife. Over at the side, Lin Chuhan and Lin Chuxia were holding their hands tightly together as they stared at Wang Ting on the screen with worry. At the first university, Ji Xiuming, Ren Qingcang, and the others were watching as well. Their faces were filled with complicated emotions: worry, nervousness, envy, and jealousy. They used to stand on the same starting line as Wang Ting, but now he had already left them far behind. The planetary stage. They already knew about that. That was a stage beyond the boundaries of a planet. Wang Ting was already at that stage while they had only just reached the general stage. They were still so far away from the planetary stage. A gap like this made them feel powerless. They were called prodigies since young. When faced with such a huge gap, they felt extremely bitter, doubting if they were even talented, to begin with. Over at Donghai, Xu Jie and Bai Weiyi were also staring at the screen. "Brother Wang Ting. You will be fine," Bai Weiyi bit her lip and muttered to herself. "Come on, Brother Tang." Xu Jie and Yu Hao's eyes were red as they clenched their fists. At the White Eagle Nation, Xuan and the others had already returned from the central continent. They were fighting against the star beasts that were ravaging the human cities. In the cities that were full of ruins, there were still undamaged screens that were showing what was happening over on the central continent. While fighting, they looked up and watched, feeling complicated inside. Their former opponent had grown so much, yet they were still struggling at the general stage. They didn't know when they would catch up again. Kill. Xuan's heart trembled, and his eyes were focused. He fought the star beasts even more ferociously. At the same time, in Country Bat, Country Boar, and the other countries, everyone who was familiar with Wang Ting was paying attention to the battle. In the sky above the central continent. Crack. As the spatial fluctuations continued to spread, the space around Wang Ting suddenly made a crisp noise like the sound of glass shattering. He heard the sound and suddenly increased the output of his force. The space shook violently. At a certain moment, the space around Wang Ting suddenly split into deep and dark rifts, into a bottomless abyss. These rifts were not the same as the space tornado that Wang Ting used at Donghai. Every rift that appeared was as thick as an arm. Even 13-star general stage martial warriors would be ripped apart if they approached them. After the rifts appeared, a gust of wind from the void gushed out and surrounded Wang Teng as if it was manipulated by a certain force. The speed of the wind changed from slow to fast and instantly turned into a violent wind, making a piercing sound like an eagle's cry. It spun rapidly, tearing apart the surrounding space, forming a terrifying piece of the void. The storm was coming. The expressions of the dark apparitions changed as they looked down in horror. "Run! Run!" a 13-star general stage dark apparition shouted. "Don't wait for the devil lords. If we wait any longer, we will all die here," another 13-star general stage vampire dark apparition yelled frantically. The 13-star general stage dark apparitions were commanders of the dark apparitions and could take the lead and control the dark apparitions. With the order, there was a commotion. All the dark apparitions wanted to escape far away. Thinking of running away? Wang Ting's cold voice resounded throughout the sky. His figure had vanished in the eye of the tornado. However, everyone stared at the storm that enveloped the sky and was terrified. Boom! As the tornado swept over ferociously, a devastating suction force broke out. The dark apparitions who were trying to escape lost control of their bodies and flew towards the tornado. Countless dark apparitions were thrown into the space tornado and had their bodies twisted and crushed into powder. They were then sent into the abyss. Roar! The dark apparitions screamed and roared as they tried to break free from the suction of the space tornado. But it was all in vain. With Wang Teng's current strength and at such a distance, the dark apparitions had no chance of escaping the space tornado. Even the 13-star general stage dark apparitions couldn't escape from the space tornado. They struggled desperately, using up every ounce of their dark force as their bodies were shrouded in black light. However, they were still slowly dragged into the space tornado. At this moment, the sky was a spectacular sight. A terrible tornado hovered over the central continent as countless deep and dark rifts appeared in its surroundings, casting darkness over the sky. The endless dark clouds poured downwards, like water flowing down a funnel, into the tornado. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. The dark apparitions that seemed unending disappeared from the world. The leaders of the countries were all shocked and speechless as they looked up at the sky. They even forgot to blink. People all over the world who saw this scene also fell into silence. Chapter 868, Up and Rising Dong Hai. He defeated an entire army of dark apparitions alone. In the past, no one would believe that this was possible. But everyone in the world saw it personally. Countless dark apparitions wailed in despair. They were sucked into the space tornado like ants. Then, they were mutilated before they died. The terrifying dark apparitions' army disappeared before everyone's eyes little by little. Time passed slowly. The dark clouds draping over the central continent dissipated gradually, and sunlight finally shone down. Peace seemed to have been restored. The end. The battle that would decide the fate of the human race had ended on this note. The dark apparitions were annihilated and the humans gained the victory. This was all thanks to the figure floating above the central continent. Wang Ting, the hero of humans. The humans started cheering from around the globe. Some kneeled on the ground and cried tears of joy. They shouted Wang Teng's name with all their might. Ji Xiaoming, Ren Qingcang, Xuan, Yoke, Valeria, Gerald. All these martial warriors that had interacted with Wang Teng before watched his rise and growth. They were witnesses of him becoming the humans' hero. Country Xia, Wang family. The Wang family finally heaved a sigh of relief. Li Xiaomei cried in joy. They were all staring at the figure on the screen proudly. The younger children even started cheering. Dong Hai. We won. We won. Xu Jie, Bai Wei, and their friends exchanged glances with one another and screamed with happiness. The same scene was occurring everywhere. Central continent. Wang Teng floated down slowly from the sky. His face was a little pale. Pervert, you're a pervert. How can you possess such a terrifying space technique? How did you come up with it? Round Ball's voice sounded in Wang Teng's mind. It kept muttering to itself without stopping. One could tell how thunderstruck it was. Wang Ting ignored it and automatically filtered out its voice. But when he glanced around him, he realized that everyone was looking at him as if he were a monster. He had destroyed the entire army of dark apparitions alone. This was such an incredible feat, frightening. All the leaders of the various nations were dumbfounded. Wang Ting's position in their hearts rose again. They must never become enemies with this scary monster. Are you a monster? Biluo looked at Wang Ting and asked, voicing everyone's thoughts. You'll get used to it, Wang Ting replied calmly. Biluo was stunned. Then, she gave him a speechless look. What do you mean by that? This fellow isn't humble at all. Praise him and he will accept it readily. Wang Ting turned away and looked at the leaders of the different nations. Although the dark apparitions have been annihilated, dimensional rifts leading to the Darkland have appeared in many parts of the world. We must find them quickly and seal them up to prevent them from invading us again. Okay, I will send my men to inspect every area thoroughly. Commander Cromwell from the White Eagle Nation nodded and agreed immediately. The other leaders cursed at him in their hearts when they heard him replying so quickly. What a sly old fox with no dignity. They hurriedly replied to Wang Ting too. No problem. I'll give my order immediately. Yes, we must inspect our country carefully and find all the dimensional rifts linking to the Darkland. At first, the leaders were all afraid of the dark apparitions, so they would speak about them with care. But after seeing Wang Ting's ability, they found their confidence and agreed almost instantly. The leader of martial arts' expression turned weird. He didn't know what to say when he glanced at the other leaders. He felt that they were students fighting to get praised by their teacher. Wang Ting was that teacher. This scene seemed a little funny. But the leader of martial arts didn't laugh. He was a mature and professional guy. He must maintain his composure at a time like this. Wang Ting felt the change in the way everyone treated him and shook his head. He opened his mouth again. I suggest holding a global union conference. A new era is dawning. We need to build a community to face the universe. The leaders' expressions changed when they heard this. Then, they nodded one after another. They knew that building a global union was a must. This would happen sooner or later. Going by the original timeline, the different countries would build a global union after going through a certain period of development. The alien invasion had hastened this entire process. We'll hold it in Donghai 5 days later. Is there any problem with that? Wang Ting glanced around him. Okay. No problem. The leaders of the various countries nodded and left quickly. But all of them sent some martial warriors to stay in the central continent. Since they were going to form a global union, everyone would naturally have a share of exploring this historical site. Donghai. The next day, the Wang family had returned to Donghai. Donghai had finished its reconstruction. High-rise buildings stood in great numbers, and the streets were back to their bustling state. The city seemed more prosperous than before. Wang Ting had created a rune array around the city, so Donghai didn't suffer much from the sea beasts' riot. It was one of the few cities that remained intact. After the reconstruction, Donghai became more beautiful and advanced. After all, with Wang Ting's support, the city had ample funds for its rebuilding project. Hence, the quantity and quality of buildings increased. You could say that Donghai was one of the top 3 most advanced cities in the country now. It was on par with capital Xia, Jinlin, and the other cities in the south. The cities in the north weren't as lucky as Donghai. They were the first to bear the brunt of the sea beasts' riot and suffered catastrophic damage. After the reconstruction of Donghai, many other wealthy and powerful families came to buy properties here. Everyone knew how powerful Wang Ting was. This was the safest city in the country. Within 3 days, Donghai's housing prices skyrocketed to a frightening height. Despite that, most of the properties were snatched almost instantly. If Donghai didn't impose property purchasing limitations immediately, the situation could have gotten worse. This would never have happened during peaceful times. The housing prices were regulated, so they would never soar up like a rocket. People who were not registered in a city wouldn't be able to buy too many properties in that city. But it still happened. These wealthy people and elite families had ways to buy the properties. No one could stop them. This proved Wang Ting's status in the country and the rise of Donghai. When the news of Donghai holding the Global Union Conference spread, Donghai's position climbed even higher. Chapter 869. Power of the Wang family. Donghai. Wang residence. The Wang residence was no doubt the most extravagant residential building in the entire Donghai. Donghai was able to rebuild itself quickly due to Wang Teng's sponsorship. Hence, the Wang family was given a large piece of land. They hired a renowned architect to design their home with an antique flavor. It gave off a classic and elegant beauty. There was a symphony of pavilions and terraces as the modern and ancient styles merged harmoniously. A landscape of lakes and greenery added radiance and beauty to each other. It was mesmerizing. There were also villas constructed around their residence. They were properly distributed like the myriad of stars surrounding the moon. They created stunning scenery. The Wang family didn't build these villas. Rather, they were constructed by the other powerful and wealthy families and figures. They didn't come for the Wang family. They built their villas here because of Wang Ting, the most powerful martial warrior on earth. What was safer than being neighbors with the most powerful martial warrior on the planet? There were 2 days left until the Global Union Conference, but many people had already arrived in Donghai. Foreign faces could be roaming the streets every day. Country Shia sent a large troop to Donghai to guard and enforce the order. Suddenly, a beam of light rose from a certain area in Donghai. This thick and dense pillar of yellow light shot into the sky. Both the citizens of Donghai and the visitors were attracted by the pillar of light. That's the Wang residence. Look, that's Wang Ting in the air. He's laying down an array. A few sharp-eyed martial warriors saw the figure above the Wang residence and recognized the person immediately. Hence, they guessed what he was doing. The figure disappeared quickly after the momentary appearance. Everyone was in awe. Wang Ting made an array for the Wang residence personally. Ever since he got crowned the title of the strongest martial warrior on earth, Wang Ting got famous. His past achievements were dug out too. Now, many people knew that he was an array master and a rune master. Thus, no one was surprised that he formed an array for the Wang residence. Instead, they were envious. Wang Ting had guided the rune masters in creating the defense array for Donghai. The sea beast's riot proved the powerful defense ability of the array. They were astounded by Wang Ting's array mastery and started exaggerating his skills. After seeing him in action, some people started to have other thoughts. If they could invite Wang Ting to form an array for them around their house, they would be able to rest in peace even when there was a star beast's riot. This thought appeared in many people's minds. Within 2 hours, the doors of the Wang residence almost cracked because of the number of visitors. Wang Ting was welcoming an ordinary-looking middle-aged man into his residence. The sofa in the living room was made using precious wood from the Xingwu continent, the purple essence wood. Wang Ting was sitting opposite the middle-aged man. Very soon, a robot dressed as a servant served them Longjing Tier 1. The robot looked almost like a real human. The outer shell was made using the most advanced simulated biochemical skin, so it looked similar to a human. This was Round Ball's work of art. These robots came from the QYE-63 spacecraft. Many of them were damaged by Wang Ting, so Round Ball used its advanced technology to repair them and dress them up in simulated skin. They became the security guards of the Wang residence and could even serve drinks and cook meals. They were extremely useful. However, Wang Ting still allowed them to preserve some traits of a robot to differentiate them from the real humans. Mr. Wang Ting, these robots are not from the Earth, right? The middle-aged man was surprised. Ha ha ha, Mr. Ma, you have good eyesight. I got these robots from the historical site. Wang Ting smiled. This ordinary-looking middle-aged man was an extremely renowned entrepreneur of country Shia. He was also widely known internationally, so Wang Ting came to welcome him personally. Of course, Mr. Ma was flattered when Wang Ting came to see him personally. Mind you, he had a high status now. He was giving him ample respect by meeting him in person. Wang Ting felt emotional as he looked at the excited middle-aged man in front of him. When he just came to this world, he wanted to use this famous person's business idea and earn himself a reputation too. However, the world had changed, so Mr. Ma had already started his business journey. He didn't give him any chance. Wang Ting had no choice but to take the martial arts path, walking grudgingly to this position. The world was unpredictable. No one knew what would happen in the future. Is it the historical site found on the central continent? Mr. Ma exclaimed. That's right. Wang Ting nodded. As expected, there are many good things in the historical site. If we study these robots, the technology of our planet will rise to an all-new height. Mr. Ma was a smart guy. He immediately thought of many possibilities. His eyes lit up, and he asked in a cautious tone, "How many robots do you have? Can you spare one for me? I have sent some robots to the military, and they are studying them. They will probably release their findings soon." Wang Ting smiled. "As for the ones in my house, I kept them to protect my family. I don't mind gifting one to you." One I thought so too, but I just had to ask. Mr. Ma shook his head with a dejected smile. "Mr. Ma, what brought you here today?" Wang Ting asked. "Mr. Wang Ting, your name has spread all over the world as a master of runes. Many people want to seek your help in forming rune arrays for them. I'm no exception. I have bought a property near the Wang residence and plan to stay here in the future and be your neighbor. I wanted to ask for your help to arrange an array for me." Mr. Ma rubbed his hands and gave an embarrassed smile. "Ha ha ha, I won't have agreed to others, but since Mr. Ma came to ask me personally, I guess I'll have to lend a hand." Wang Ting smiled. "Really? Thank you so much." Mr. Ma felt extremely content when he heard Wang Ting's reply. He beamed with happiness. "But there's no hurry. You can come over when you're free." Wang Ting nodded in agreement and they set a time for him to go over to create the array. "I'll not disturb you anymore." Mr. Ma bade farewell. After Mr. Ma left, Wang Ting shook his head and walked into the room. He saw Grandpa Wang and Wang Shengwa coming out. "Grandpa Wang, Dad, if anyone else comes to find me, tell them I'm cultivating and can't be disturbed," he said in a helpless tone. "Ha ha. Other people yearn to meet them, but you seem reluctant to even see them," Grandpa Wang teased him. "It's too troublesome. I'm leaving." Wang Ting shook his head and ran away. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.